Welcome, super friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot, as always, is Steve Madura.
Rizzle dizzle.
We're two best friends that, despite being fathers and husbands, we just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode number 58. We release every Thursday morning on iTunes, Google Music, and Stitcher. If you like what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button and get us automatically each and every week into your ear holes.
That is right.
Steve.
Yes.
As I say that, I want to tell you something real quick, and then we will move on. We are moving on as a podcast. We're growing up. We talked about it, that we've hit our year mark. We are now also pushing this podcast over to YouTube, my friend.
I am loving it, man.
So if you're a YouTuber and you want to watch logo and listen to us, you can do that. That's a new thing. We're adding that, so really excited. But what I'm more excited about tonight, as we record, we have a special guest with us. Of course, this is our movie club. We always try to bring someone in, get another perspective. But we have a good friend of mine, a member of Diverse City, the band that backs up the wonderful Toby Mac. He is the co-host of Married to the Games and one of the founding members. Also, he is the father to Amara, Remy, and Milo, and husband to Jenny. My good friend and yours, Gabe Patillo. Gabe, how are you?
Oh, yeah. Woo! Oh, what an intro. I feel like I'm supposed to be like, I feel like I'm supposed to come up and present an award now. Because of how you just introed me.
This is a roast of Spencer, actually. Go. No.
Exactly. Right. And the first thing I think when I think of Spencer Stapleton, I'm just kidding.
All of a sudden you sound like Cat Williams.
That's my roasting voice. Cat Williams is my roasting voice, yeah.
That's right. Nice. That's right. So Gabe, we're happy to have you on here. I know you and I talked, man, this was 6 months ago about having you on, and I was like, I want to have you on when we do this one because I know you're a huge Star Wars guy. And so, we've put this off. We could have had you on forever ago, but I wanted you here for tonight.
I love it. I'm ready to go, man. Freaking Star Wars. Gracious.
We are so excited to have you, Gabe, man. I've never actually, this is for the listening audience at home, never met Gabe before, but heard so much about you. I feel like I know you. I feel like you're a brother, and I'm excited to have you on the show, man. I'm excited to bring in the heat, man. Bring in the heavy.
Man, well, I'm humbled to even be asked on the For Real. You do your own podcast, and you got your guys on there, and you got the people that listen, and you got your community, and then your community starts growing up, and they start doing podcasts of their own, and then when they invite you on their show, you're like, oh, snap, man. I feel like I'm a proud uncle right now, a real proud uncle.
I feel like our podcast just hit puberty or something. No, I'm kidding. Our podcast all grown up.
Well, we've talked about this before, and it's so true. Your guys' podcast, Married to the Games, was the first podcast I ever listened to.
Really?
I wasn't a podcast guy, and my brother, he started listening and said, hey, you guys got to check out this podcast. He's like, Spence, you will love it. It's right up your alley. It's like these dads who play video games, and they got lives just like us. And I was like, yeah, okay. And he's like, no, seriously, check this out. And so he badgered me for 2-3 weeks. And I was like, fine, I'll give it a listen. It's one of those
that's where our
you're my brother.
Goes.
I'm going to humor you.
Pay people to badger
right, from
other
badgering.
People. Yes,
right.
That's exactly what
So then I listened. It was episode.
Did he have the taser gun I sent him?
Yes,
I told him
exactly.
to tase you if you didn't.
And the $5 bill.
You must do this. It was episode 104. It was called Dadlock. It was right when the first Destiny had come out, and that was the first episode I listened. And I was like, yeah, man, these guys they get me. This is who I am in my real life. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go back. And I re-listened to everything, and then, of course, from there, we became friends. We started talking and interacting through the podcast, and then offline, and it's just kind of grown from there. And
we hung out in Salt Lake,
we hung out in Salt Lake. We've hung out in Nashville. We're gonna do it again this year. Salt Lake and Nashville once again.
Yes, sir.
I'm excited. It's going to be a good year. I just wish you were coming to Salt Lake when it was warm, because I was going to get another motorcycle and we'd go out and go for a ride. But it is not motorcycle weather in February. I'm telling you.
Bundle up.
No.
We just got to bundle up.
Yeah.
Now,
just bundle up and pray we don't die.
Do you guys remember that scene from Wedding Singer when the boyfriend of Drew Barrymore, brings in that CD player and she's like, "Oh, I'll go get a record." He's like, "No, it's a CD player," right? So
Yeah.
I felt that same way with podcasts because Spencer was like, "You got to listen to this." He did the same thing that Josh did to him. He's like, "You got to listen to this show. I really like the format. The guys are great. I know them." And so I was like, "A podcast? Is that like a radio station?" He's like, "Yeah, but on the internet." I'm like, "Well, what is this?" So anyway, yeah, you actually were the first podcast I listened to as well, though I cannot state the episode or the name or what was talked about, but it was good. It was talked about Nintendo. And I was like, they speak in my language.
Hey.
Yeah. So
I like it. That's awesome.
you were my first, Gabe.
Well, we are grateful.
It was the sly little look you gave Gabe as you said that really makes me wonder, Steve.
Right.
No, but it's like I said, like our podcast, the idea grew out of what you guys did, and we liberally ripped off your format. We changed a few things up so it seems different.
It's all
but
good.
You know what? Don't mess with perfection, right?
If it ain't broke, why fix it?
That's what I'm
right.
saying.
Put the wrenches down.
So, Gabe, how was your week? What is new, man? Christmas is over. Are you guys all settled in at the Patillo household?
Man, we are enjoying 2018. Christmas was great. We had some sickness kind of fly through the house a couple weeks leading up to Christmas, and so we were really nervous that we were all going to be sick on Christmas Day, but it didn't turn out to be that way. Everybody was healthy, so we enjoyed Christmas. Still trying to like drive home from me and my family, drive home that Christmas is not just about the presents, and trying to represent that side of things as well. So but it was really good. I got 3 little ones, like you mentioned before. The 2 small ones don't really care about the presents. I have a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old. They were just happy to, be up early. But my 6-year-old really cared. And so, but it was so much fun, and we just soaked up all the goodness and eggnog we could, and kept it moving, man. It was a good time.
Did you hear that, Spence? Did you hear that? Eggnog, man.
I heard.
Gabe, I knew I liked you from the first time I met you. I knew I liked you.
It's the nectar of the gods. I don't know why people are tripping and don't like eggnog. I don't know.
I actually tried some over Christmas. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give it another go.
What kind?
I'm not too It was actually like this pumpkin spice.
Oh, well, that's a mistake.
Man, you got to be a purist, man.
Everyone's like,
that was a misorder.
Let me tell you this.
Exactly.
It wasn't.
You just talked about not messing with stuff.
Half bad, but at the same time, it's just.
You know what?
You gotta try
Spence,
the original.
Your palate has not been developed yet. Sometimes those tastes are a little too mature for I understand.
That's right. Maybe when you're 50.
I get it. I'm a 5-year-old in an almost 40-year-old's body, and I don't want it because it doesn't taste good, right? I get it.
That's right.
We're good. We're good. So everyone's in. Everyone's healthy at Christmas time. Like you guys all like pulled it together at the last minute.
Yeah. So we got to enjoy that. Enjoyed New Year's. We didn't keep all the kids up, but me and my wife were doing what we love to do, which is work on the house. So as we rang in the new year, we were painting, and she was up on a ladder, and it was a good time. We watched the music, the Dick Clark thing that we watch every year with Ryan Seacrest, and so yeah, man, it was a good time. We've been taking it slow before tour pops off, so we're trying to soak up all the family time we can.
How long before you get on tour again?
We start rehearsals halfway through January, and then towards the end of January through like the end of April, we are like pretty much gone. So we're just trying to soak up all that family time.
Actually, Gabe, let me ask you a question. So you do a lot of household renovations, is that right?
That's right.
I think going back to the podcast question, I listened to a podcast when you were redoing your kitchen, and you would put some like white subway tiles up, I think, on the backsplash.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Good memory.
Man,
yeah.
I told you I wasn't lying.
Yeah, man. Good memory.
I was impressed, though.
We redid the whole kitchen, baby. We ripped out every cabinet, and then I ordered ready-to-assemble cabinets and put them all together myself and put them in place.
My gosh, man.
And all that. Yeah, man. It was crazy.
I am impressed. I'm going to have you come to my house.
I'm glad that's over.
Yeah, right. Cooking from a hot plate like, 3 meals a day.
If you want it done kind of right, I can come do it.
The cabinets, the place just slide to one side. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
If you take one shoe off, everything looks straight.
Exactly right.
Very cool,
Nice.
man. Very cool. Very cool.
So are you?
Yeah, man.
What are you playing right now? What are you watching? Like, are you guys? Do you and Jenny like spend? Like, I don't know. Breed and I, we do this thing where like at the end of every night, no matter like how our day's been, like we always put something on Netflix and just watch something to kind of like decompress a little
Man,
day. Like, you guys watching stuff?
I
or
wish we did.
playing games.
We don't. We save all our work for at night. And so we parent all day and then we
Right.
work kind of at night. And so that's kind of our time to sit back. She has an Etsy store called Love and Lion. And so she's constantly doing stuff for that. And they open their store back up today. And so, from paused for Christmas. And so she's back working. And then I do voiceover stuff on the side as well. And so at night I'm auditioning for voiceover work or, doing jobs I've gotten and stuff like that. And so we kind of save the nighttime for that. We want to watch shows, but we just never find the time. So we started season 2 of Stranger Things, like when it came out and just haven't got back to it. I think we've watched like 2 or 3 episodes. And so
It's
we
like
wanted,
cocaine. How can you quit that?
trust me. I know when it's 3:00 in the morning and you got to get up at
right.
7 the next day with the kids, you're like, okay, we got to shut this down.
Yeah.
And so, we did that. I personally, like when I get on the computer and I'm working and stuff like that, I might put like, I like stand-up comedy a whole lot. And so I'll put on some stand-up comedy. So last night while I was doing taxes, I put on the new Dave Chappelle and listened to that.
Is it good?
So,
Is it good?
I mean, it's rough. You know what I'm saying? It's
Well,
not for
that's
kids or
Chappelle.
anything like that.
Yeah, that's
I wanna
Chappelle.
Remind everybody. But there's 2 of them that dropped yesterday, kind of like he did
Right.
earlier this year. There's a smaller one, and then there's a grander one. The grander one, whoo,
Yeah.
that thing was funny.
Nice.
Not for kids. It is rated R for sure.
Yeah.
But
I made the
mistake.
mistake
funny,
of
man.
like watching the 2 Dave Chappelles like with my wife, and like
Oh.
I'm laughing, and I look over her, and she was
Not
not,
laughing.
having it. I was like,
Exactly.
maybe I'll finish this later. I'm like, do you want to turn Friends back on? We can turn Friends back on. I
Right.
promise.
That's
Maybe
my
you have to go back to like Cheers.
yeah, exactly.
Really water it down.
I watch it and then I tell her whether it's good enough to watch because
Yeah.
some of that stuff is just too blue for her. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, but you know what? Man, I love Dave Chappelle. I really do.
Gosh, it's so
Like,
funny.
So funny.
And as far as playing stuff, my kids have taken over the Xbox, and so they just play Just Dance all the time. So
Oh, nice.
we
Good
got
exercise.
we got a lot of Just Dance going on. And then when I get away, I've been playing a lot of Call of Duty World War II multiplayer. Been playing a little Destiny, trying to get through that little DLC story that they released. And then I've been dipping my toe into a little PUBG on the Xbox at night. So
Man.
you know what's weird about PUBG? And I don't know if this is just me. For some reason, I feel okay playing Call of Duty multiplayer in front of the kids. For some reason, PUBG feels different. It feels more
Really?
violent for some strange reason to me.
Really?
I don't know why that is, but like there's something about like I don't know what it is. Maybe because it's not like in a war setting.
I'd say
Where
Call
it's
of
like-
Duty it's World War I, World War II.
Yeah, it's World War II, and so like this is what
This is
happens.
historic.
There's good guys, there's bad guys, right? In PUBG, it just feels like you're killing somebody, and so
Right.
there's something
Right.
about that I don't like playing
It's
in front of
without
the kids.
purpose.
Yeah,
Here's-
exactly. It's
Here's
like
100
last man
people on an
standing.
island.
Right. And so there's not that good guy, bad guy thing that Amara understands. Like, oh, that's the bad guy. You want to get the bad guy. Where in,
Right.
PUBG, it just feels like, you're a guy and you're running around and you see somebody, you just shoot them. You know what I'm saying? For no apparent
Yeah.
reason.
Right.
And so that was a little harder to understand. So I don't know. That's just a little dad hiccup that I'm having right now. Of like, oh man, this one feels like, oh yeah, you're running around, and she's like, get that guy, and I'm like, oh, da 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 da. You know what I'm saying? Which
that
might
guy's
still
getting
be
groceries.
weird.
Get him.
He's a bad
Exactly,
guy,
but
Dad. Kill him, kill him, kill him. You're like,
exactly.
oh, wait a minute, back down a little bit. This is
You're
a
getting a
game.
little too excited. Let's go back to Mario
Yeah.
Kart.
Yeah,
Let's go back to
that's,
Duck Hunt.
That's how it is with my boys. They're like, Daddy, he's a bad guy. Kill him. I'm like, whoa, that's just a Goomba. We just stomp on him. We don't kill him.
Yeah,
he
we
just
just jump on
flattens
their
out and
head.
then disappears.
Exactly.
And he comes back.
Let's throw a
Relax.
turtle shell at him.
Yeah, let's go back to playing Batman games where I'm just knocking people out.
That's
Right, exactly.
That's right.
No one gets hurt. No one does. Yeah. Well, good. I feel that pain, man. I know what it's like. I have a hard time playing multiplayer games in front of my kids because it's just like, it's so much endless dying and killing, and I get it. So I'm with you. Steve, what are you up to, man? How has your week been? What's new?
Was awesome. It was awesome. We celebrated in full Madura style, which is big, man. We go big or go home. So we had New Year's Eve at our house. My mother and sister Emily and her husband Jeff, which they're awesome. So much fun.
Wait, is it that one Emily that know?
One Emily,
that I know?
That one Emily. Which actually, so they just got a job offer and they're heading down south to kind of get everything set up for housing. They had like a 5-hour drive. They listened to the podcast the entire time.
Ooh,
our podcast?
Back to back. Yeah, man.
Wow.
He's like,
no, Married to the Game, Spencer. Come on now.
That's what I'd be listening to.
Right? I was like, really? No, they said that it actually kept them alive because it kept them awake and alert while they were driving. So Spence, if you ever end the podcast and think, are we really making a difference? We saved lives, brother. We saved lives.
Nice.
So anyway,
I'm going to have that put on my tombstone. I saved lives with my podcast.
I'm going to have pepperoni on my tombstone. No, I'm just kidding.
Man.
So anyway, but my wife, sweetheart that she is, she went to Party City and like full on bought half the store. We had like black lights and strobe lights and flashing like disco lights down in our basement. And so when the kids had their like 9:30 New Year's Eve,
right?
Though my oldest is like, this isn't the real New Year's Eve. I'm like,
you're like, it is somewhere,
it's
son.
Midnight
it is
someplace. Yeah, stop tripping.
It is in London, man. Anyway, so we go downstairs. We had the party hats. We blew the things. We took these fun pictures and stuff. Had a great time. Played games all night, which a lot of board games. We're into this one called Code Names. It's a really fun kind of I don't know.
Did you play Secret Hitler? Did you play Secret Hitler? No, you don't know what I'm talking about, do you?
Is that
Gabe knows what I'm talking about. Let me tell you.
Oh, that's a
that
good
is
time.
Oh man, good
Secret
Christmas.
Hitler?
I'll tell you about it here in a minute.
That sounds hellacious.
We'll talk.
Anyway, so had a great time with them. But I gotta say, and tell me what you guys think. New Year's Eve, aside from a smooch and whatever little poppers and stuff, is probably the most anticlimactic, but oversold. Like it's like the ball drops 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, let's clean up and go home. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So we draped everything in our basement with sheets, and then we had a bunch of paper, the circle, confetti stuff that we got from Office Depot. So the kids are throwing it around everywhere and having a great time. And then it just we had like Celebration on by Kool and the Gang, and it was like all great and stuff. And then the music stopped, and it was like, okay, go home.
Well, yeah, it's one of those weird things where you're celebrating time moving. Like that's not something that happens regardless.
I'm closer to death. I don't know, man. So, but I guess birthdays are the same thing. I don't know. But anyway, so it was fun. We had a great time, and then had some friends over last night and played games again. We've just been doing a lot of like friends over board game type thing. We had fondue. We had a bunch of food. My mom.
That's great.
She goes to the 9. She had like lobster tails that she bought fresh and made them in our kitchen. She was like just kept cranking out appetizers. I know, right?
Hey, man, I really appreciated the invite. Thanks.
Secret Hitler? Anyway, we had a great time, and today was taking the Christmas lights down. So it was like a full day of like packing everything up in the box, tying it up, and putting it in the attic. So
man, my wife is day after Christmas that stuff comes down.
My wife is too,
really?
but I got a few days extra. I got a few leeway days.
There you go.
I have to work today, but
we get through New Year's, and then
it happened to be negative 13 out when we're outside, like taking these lights down, and we had to come in for finger breaks, which is basically to warm our fingers.
Wow,
it was that bad. So it's been pretty frigid here in Chicago. So
that junk would be
Gabe, I got a shout out for you
though.
though. I got a shout out for you. So when you were in town, I don't know, a year ago or whatever, you took Josh to a place called Galloping Ghosts. Remember this place? It's a huge arcade. He got a picture of you and he there.
It's in Chicago, Gabe.
It's in Chicago.
Steve's
anyway,
in Chicago.
Yeah, just go. Anyway, so I told my brother and sister
are you talking to me?
Brother-in-law about
Shout out to me. I took
I'm
Josh
talking
there?
to you. Yeah. Galloping Ghosts.
Oh, I'm waiting for Spencer to reply. I was like, I've been to Galloping Ghosts. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about you.
Listen, I thought you were talking to Spencer.
Who is this game
I totally
character he's talking
remember that.
about?
Yeah.
I like this guy.
Yeah, no, it was awesome.
Yeah, so I went there with a colleague, and then I told my sister and brother-in-law to go there, and so they went there like 3-4 days ago, and they told me about a New Year's Eve. They said it was so much fun. They went there at like 11 o'clock. They didn't leave till 7 at night.
What?
They're like, it's
Whoa.
night. Yeah, they like the time just flew by.
Oh my gosh, that place is incredible.
It is incredible. They just went from like room to room to room. It just keeps going, man.
Yeah, and what's fun about
it's like
there
a labyrinth.
is that we got to. I had a buddy who was the one that told me about Galloping Ghosts, and so we got to. And he knows the owner, and so we got to kind of bring the owner over and talk to him and ask him questions and things like that. And so it was really, really cool. When I went to the Midwest Gaming Classic when I was in Wisconsin, Galloping Ghost was there, and they had like a whole room downstairs, and they had brought Jeff Lee in, who was the creator of Qbert. He drew Qbert and helped get that off the ground. Yeah, and so that's where I originally met the guy from Galloping Ghost, and then when we went there again, a couple months later, got to reconnect with him, and that place is just, I mean, it just goes on and on, like you're saying.
It's like 600
amazing
games.
Yes.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's
now,
insane.
Two questions. Did you, number one, have to pay when you went there? Number two, did you actually record was this like an interview for the podcast?
I should have, but I didn't. It was kind of like, I was with Josh, and I was with a couple other guys from the Married to the Games community that live there in Chicago. And so it was kind of like not that kind of party. And yes, I did pay. I probably could have worked it to where I didn't, but I love supporting local. We do that a lot here in Nashville where I live. We support local. And so I'm not sad about paying, but there was a whole little motley crew of us. I want to say there was like 7 or 8 of us. And so it was a really,
place,
really good
you can
time.
get lost in that place, man. Literally. You can get lost in that place.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I had to text my buddy and be like, where are you?
Polo.
Exactly.
Marco.
I know.
Fish out of water. Yeah.
Exactly.
It was a good time.
So fun. Anyway, so I had a great time. Had a great New Year's Eve. But enough about me, man. Spence, what about you? How you doing?
So I made it back from Montana. I know people didn't think it was going to happen because it was -40, -40.
Come on, man. That doesn't even make any sense.
The moment we left. Now it was like I got my wife. She took a picture. I'm like, look, honey, it's -37. Take a picture. So she takes a picture. I'm like, -38. Grab that one. We had like -37, -38, -39, -40.
While you're driving, flashes are going off in the car. You're swerving around.
It wasn't the best idea, but it was this, huge cold snap and this huge like blizzard that had gone across the state of like Montana, like North Dakota, and kind of the upper parts of the country while we were driving up to Montana. And so it took like a day and a half to get there. I know we kind of talked about this the last podcast, but like coming back home, we made it home in 14 hours, which is about the normal drive to get back home. Jackson, man, my sweet 3.5, almost 4-year-old little boy, like he's just nothing but like, I mean, he's crazy. Like he gets, but he can be so sweet, but like he gets car sick if we forget to put the little like wristbands on to like do the pressure points. Mm-hmm. And we'd forgot that. And so we've been driving since like 6 a.m, and then like around 2 p.m, I hear this, this like whining noise. I'm like, no, and I like pull over. Now this is like on snow and ice, so like I kind of skidded a little bit, but I pull over. I was like, we're gonna catch this before, and then we turn around. Nope, he'd vomited all down himself into the car seat, and I was like, oh please. So like, now here's the thing: he's potty trained, so we don't have like wipes on us anymore to go with diapers. So all we had was like a bottle of water and napkins, and then like the blankets we took with us. And let me just tell you. This happened like 3 times on the car ride back. Like that was the first instance.
Really?
It was. I love this boy. I love this boy with all of my heart. But at that moment, I was ready to sell him to the circus. I was like, "Please, can
Why
we
didn't you
change
stop at
this
Walmart
model
or something and get those bands?"
If there was a wall, like we actually had the bands, but my wife forgot to put them on because we're trying to get out the door, and it was super cold, and it was really early in the morning because it's a long day.
Is that like spit and it freezes before it hits the ground, kind of cold?
Yes.
Oh yes, yeah.
It is that kind of cold. So like we put the bands on him, but like once you've already gotten sick, that doesn't do anything. It kind of only prevents. Yeah, like it. It didn't stop at the second and third time, but.
And how many hours was from the first puking till you get home? How many hours do you have to smell that?
was about 6 hours. 6 hours. 6 hours. Now here's the thing. Now, and like, cause trust me, I get it. It was really super cold. Even in the car, it was still kind of cold. So like, it didn't smell, which was good because otherwise Daddy would have been outside, you know.
That's right.
Oh no. But anyway,
synthetic puke.
Yeah, very much so. I felt really bad. And of course I spent like the next day after we got home, like spraying down that car seat outside, like in the cold with a hose. I'm like, we're not bringing this thing in the house. But anyway, craziness. Like we had a great time. So Brida's grandfather, who lives in the hometown she's from, like he got some really bad news, like right before Christmas, that he had stage 4 lung cancer, but they didn't kind of know the full effects. They were waiting to get some news. So like when we went up there, like I brought my PS4 and my Switch with me, like I always do, and I brought my computer monitor so I could plug it in. So like I got this whole rig set up in the basement. So like I get bored. It's my in-laws. I mean, I love them, but like, you know, I need some time to myself. I can come mosey on down there and play some video games and stay up late at night. But I realized, like, we don't know what's going to happen. So, like, we just made memories. Like, we just made everything count. Like, I didn't touch my PS4 and play a single video game for a 9-day stretch when I'm on vacation. I was like, you know what? We got to make this all about family. We got to do stuff. And so, like, we played games. Like, we played this Tenzi game, which is a dice rolling game. We played Secret Hitler, which I got for Christmas, and love that game. We just played games and spent time together and like read books to the kids and played with the kids. And when when her grandfather was over, like he gets along really well with me. He, for some reason, he thinks like I'm like, you know, really funny or something. And so he always wants to like hang out with me and sit next to me. He's like, I got a spot for you right here. Like at the Christmas dinner. I'm like, what about your wife? And he's like, she can talk to me another time. He's like, you sit right here. I was like,
awesome.
All right, Bumpa, we're good. I'll sit next to you. Sweet man. But the best part was today we get a text message from Brida's mom, and she says, okay, the test results came back. It is stage 4. It is lung cancer, but it's this really freaky kind that's completely treatable with a pill. He doesn't have to do chemo. He doesn't have to go into the hospital. They're going to give him some pill that's going to stop it from growing and shrink it a little bit, but it's basically just going to like freeze it there. And so they're going to be able to take care of some of the other pneumonia and other things, but he's going to have to take this pill, I guess, the rest of his life, but he's going to be able to live for much, much, much longer than we thought. So like, it truly is like a Christmas miracle, like a blessing just to know
awesome.
That,
that's great.
That we can still have more memories that we can make with him. And that was really kind of a cool thing. Steve, you and I last week we kind of talked because we knew the new year was coming up. We talked about resolutions, and you said you wanted to get healthier, and I said I wanted to get healthier. And so like, we kind of put it out there, and like, my goal is to lose 100 pounds in 2018, like eating healthy, doing all these things. And like, you know, I'm going to do it. I'm going to stay on it. So Peter Christensen, one of our super friends, the listeners of the show, because we were talking about, you know, Jim Hopper and, you know, being in Hellboy now, he said he wanted to be part of the Hopper to Hellboy accountability group. And so I set up a Discord for the podcast just for this. We've got a Hopper to Hellboy accountability group. We got a couple people that have jumped in there, like 5 or 6. So anyone that's listening to this podcast, if you want to be a part of this, I've got the link on our social media. It's on Facebook and Twitter. I'll put it out again later in the week. I don't care if you want to lose weight, you want to get healthier, you just want to eat better, whatever it is. You got a goal, you want to do something, and you want to put it out there and you want to be accountable. We're here for you. We're going to do this together. We're going to make 2018. We're going to own 2018. Like we're going to do this and we're going to make our life better. Yeah. So you want to be a part of it? Join us, join the conversation. Ed Placencia jumped in and like Ed and I are good friends. We've been talking. He's like, yeah, you're doing this. You should also look at doing this, you know, and it's like giving me some like great tips and like things to look at. So just, man, that's like awesome. I said, I love our super friends. I love the listeners of this show, just good people all around and, you know, join us, man. We want you guys to get better with us.
I went running this morning, man. The treadmill was like creaking at -7, you know, but it was good.
I'm taking it slow. I'm cutting out pop this week, and I'm counting calories, just trying to kind of get a measure of what I'm eating. Next week, the cardio comes in, and then I think the week after that, man, I may do some yoga. Like I keep hearing about this
Hey.
yoga stuff, and I'm gonna
I ain't
give it
mad
a
at
go.
that.
Yoga is really tough, but that's awesome, man. That is awesome. All about the balance.
Right? And I can use some of that, so we'll
Amen.
do
That's
it.
awesome. That is
Anyway,
cool.
that's my week. Steve, let's move on to Rebel Intelligence. What do you say?
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
Okay, Steve and Gabe, it is Rebel Intelligence, my favorite part of the podcast. So, Steve, what do you got for me this week?
Okay, so earlier this week, Stan Lee, we all know the legend, the man, the myth.
Comic legend,
book man. Celebrated his 95th birthday.
That's right.
But
Congrats.
amongst all the gifts, all the presents, all the whatever, there was a report that came out from the Beverly Hills Police Department that they're conducting an investigation of a fraudulent check that was cashed to Mr. Lee's bank account to the tune of $300,000.
Whoa.
For some comic books that were apparently bought by a fraudulent individual, and so
Wow.
I don't know, all the details of the story are kind of still out there, but I think that the comic books have been parted with, and the money was obviously not as credible as one would think. So anyway,
Wow.
sad to say, he's. I mean, Spence, you met him, right? I mean, you got a good relationship
I've
with Mr.
met
Lee.
I've met Stan Lee. Stan and I had a chance to talk for about 45 seconds before a photo op at a
Oh,
Comic-Con.
I thought you were going to say 45 minutes. I was about to be so happy.
I know,
Man, 45 minutes would be awesome. You know what? Like, here's the thing. Like, he is like the sweetest man you could possibly meet. And the fact that like someone wants to rip off a 95-year-old in the first place, like
he's 95 and a comic legend, but also
ripping off
95.
anyone, right, is a bad idea. But like a 95-year-old and the guy that like gave us the Fantastic Four and X-Men and Spider-Man and the Hulk.
Iron
I mean,
Man.
come on.
Come on. I know.
What is wrong with people?
Seriously.
They have no soul. They have no soul. But hey, on a side note, have you seen the Key and Peele sketch about Stan Lee?
I don't know if I have. Maybe I have.
Check it. He comes into the boardroom and they play it up like he's obviously got all these crazy whack job ideas. Like, all right, I got an idea for you. Here you go. And he's like this weird, like geriatric man. He's got tennis balls on the bottom of the walker. He comes in and he makes a big ruckus about his soup being cold. And they're like, I don't think that's going to be. And he's like, all right, you don't need my ideas. He starts to walk out and then he's like, I got an idea. How about a bunch of ad execs that go without jobs? And then they're like, no, we like your ideas. Come on, man.
yeah, exactly.
It was pretty funny.
Nice.
Pretty
Nice.
funny. Anyway, well, Mr. Lee, I hope you get your money back or your comics back.
Yeah, $300,000. I hope he gets his money back.
Yeah. So
Just saying. Whew. So Steve, this is really sad, and Gabe, you probably have heard this too. Like swatting. Swatting's this thing where idiots on the internet have a problem with one another, and instead of acting like reasonable adults and turning the internet off, walking away, no, they instead call in a fake 911 bogus crisis situation in an attempt to get the police, the SWAT team, to bust down the other guy's door. Well, this week, this is like super sad, but this happened again, except this time it was over, I think, like $1.50 bet on Call of Duty. And basically this guy, this guy won, and like he was taunting the other guy. And so he tossed out his address, just like begging him to SWAT him. Except the address was fake. It was for somewhere else in the city. And they said that there was, I think the story goes that there was a kidnapping or a hostage situation, and like the dad had been shot in the head. And so the cops show up, they bang on the door. This 28-year-old guy opens up the door, and the cops claim later that it looked like his hand was going towards his waist. They shot him immediately when the door was open. Now, this is sad because, first of all, I think swatting is a very stupid thing.
My question, can I ask a question though about swatting in the first place? Like, what I've
absolutely.
never understood is like how does everybody know where everybody lives at? You know what I'm saying? Like the last place I'm giving out my address is over Call of Duty. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I've heard swatting's not new. Like it's been around for years and years. But you're like, why do people even know where each other live at in the first place to be able to call the cops on somebody at their house? It's been caught on Twitch. You know, we've seen cops bust into a room and somebody's just sitting there playing video games and they're like, you know, get hustled to the ground and you know, obviously never turns into anything. This is the first time I've heard swatting taking a really terrible left turn.
Right.
But I just don't know why people think that giving out your address is a smart idea in the first place.
I don't know necessarily, like in this case, like obviously this guy tossed out an address, you know, he put it out there and
that's what you're supposed to do is give a fake address. You know what I'm saying? If somebody has your address on the internet.
So let me tell you, baby, my number is 911.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
555.
Yeah, right.
My name is Joseph Matterhorn. Yeah, that's my name.
Exactly.
You know, I get it, but like I think also we live in this information age though, Gabe, where so much stuff, like there's so much public record that's out there that for a long time people didn't know how to access, or like you'd have to go down to a courthouse, be like, oh, you know, Gabe Patillo has purchased this home. That's a matter of public record.
Sure.
So you could go down to a courthouse, you could pull a record, pay the fee, but like now so much stuff has shifted to online and online record keeping that eventually, you know, if you have your real name out there on anything, there's always the potential that could be, you know, found out. That's why I go by Joseph Matterhorn. I don't want to be found out.
I go by John Cocktoson.
Dang you. No, but yeah, I don't know that it's necessarily, because in this story, the guy that was involved in the bet, like sent his information to another guy who's known for swatting, and that guy took the information and did something with it. So I always guess that like there's got to be more people involved, you know, someone who's actually playing online, and then someone who's like trying to like dig for dirt online to like, hey, let's swat this guy because it'd be cool. But you know what? Like I think it's just a dumb practice altogether. Like, you know, grow up, walk away, not a big deal. But in this case, like it turned deadly. Some innocent bystander who had nothing to do with this lost their life over it. And I mean, we've seen in the past people who have done this, you know, swatters have gotten, you know, jail sentences. What's going to happen with this? You know, someone died over it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just ugly. It's just
ugly.
Ugly.
I thought I heard with this specific story that someone actually had been, I don't know if they'd been arrested or.
Yeah, they got the guy who did the call.
Yeah.
But, you know, and he's got a laundry list of things that he had done before, you know, called in bomb threats and things like that. So they've, you know, it's a problem child. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's a bad guy and he's done this a whole bunch. And so, you know, but it's like, what sucks is there's only so much you can do. I would think from a law standpoint. He made the phone call, but like really it's the cops' fault. Like they shouldn't have opened fire on this guy right after he opens the door. Like no matter what you think is going on, you've got to have cause. It can't just be hearsay like, hey, there's a dangerous situation going on. So right when the guy opens the door, open fire on him. And to my understanding, they told him put his hands up and they did, but then he like kind of brought him down too quick. And so the cops reacted. You know, you're kind of getting a lot of situations. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have ever dealt with the cops. I have. And I know that they told me to get my hands up and I did. And then as things calmed down, I put them back down and they're like, no, get him back up. And so I was like, oh, okay. And put him back up. And so, you know, they're on edge. It's the toughest job probably in the world is a cop. You're expected to make the 100% right decision every single time at a drop of a hat, in a moment's notice. And so I get that. But like, it does feel to me that in our country, cops, it seems like, can get a little quick to reach for the gun. Now, I'm not a cop. And so I don't understand what it feels like to suit up every day, to leave your home, knowing that maybe you're not going home that night because of something crazy that could happen at work. So I want to give the leeway that you're already on edge, just going into work, whatever day. And so, but man, we just, and of course we only hear about the cop shootings, right? We never hear about the 1,000,000 times everything went right. And so, we got to give them that leeway. But it feels like, I'm like, man, we can't like tase people first or something like that. But, I'm not there. I don't know
Rubber
what it's
bullets
like.
or something. I don't know.
You know what I'm saying?
It's a really interesting thing you bring up because like I know some cops. I'm in a motorcycle club and I've got some cops that are buddies of mine that are in this club. Yep. And like we talked about this because especially in the last few years, like the amount of gun violence that is reported in the media that we see, the cops shooting people, like it's being put everywhere. And it's like, you're right. There's how many millions of times do we not hear reports like, hey, cops, prevented this situation or like diffuse the situation or whatever. Like, cause
we never
I
hear
get
that.
it.
That's not clickbait.
It's not clickbait. It's not sexy. It doesn't sell. I get it, which is another huge issue, right? We're glorifying murder, but anyway. But I talked to these guys and they say, you know what? They said, it's tough because you want to do the right thing all the time, but you also know that like these things happen and like I may not go home. And on top of all that, cause like that's extra stress, that you have protocols you have to follow. And like, if someone does something and it looks like they're trying to reach, you have to make a judgment call that's going to end someone's life. Woo. And usually in that situation, the thought process is he's going for a weapon. It's now my life or his.
Exactly.
Right.
And you know what? Like I have a lot of respect for those that do that job because I don't know that I'd want to make that decision on a daily basis as part of my job. And so I got a lot of respect for those that do, but I am with you. Like it's unfortunate the number of people that we're seen reported losing their lives due to these things. And like I see this and I was like, man, this guy was this innocent guy, whether he put his hands down too quick or not. And, obviously there's going to be, I know the officer's been already, suspended and he's going to be, there's going to be an investigation and I get all that and they're going to go through their process. Mm-hmm. But like, it's just, man, I just feel like when we were kids and like, we're all right about the same age. When we were kids, like, you just didn't hear about it like this much. Like at least in certain areas, in certain big cities. Like Steve and I grew up outside of Chicago, and we know there was a lot of violence, in Chicago. There's, gang violence, cop violence, a lot of stuff going on. But like, it feels like it's every other day we turn around and something like this is happening.
Right. And I think, I don't think that it happens any more than it used to. I think we just have 24-hour news, and we've got, the news in itself, their big thing is report it first. So even if it's wrong, they want to report it first, right? And so they're quick to get the story out there. It's kind of like child abduction. They say that children don't get abducted more now than they used to. We just hear about it more now than we used to. And so
it was actually really dangerous back like in the 80s. It was like the 80s when we were like growing up.
But we didn't talk about it all like that, And so,
I'm afraid to let my kids like walk across the street.
Exactly. Like, and we don't let our kids do anything that what we used to do. Yeah. Go out, ride your bike and come back by the time it's dinner. Like, I wouldn't imagine doing that with my kids. But like,
and even if you didn't want to, you would be judged and crucified by the neighbors.
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously.
Like, man, the freaking, these kids are out all the time. Like, what are their parents doing? It's like, letting them be kids. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
But I can't let them play video games all day either. Like, y'all gonna be mad either way. So it's like you got to just do you at some point. But man, I think we have an overabundance of information getting shoved at us, and it's a real shame because it's stirring up fear where I don't think there should be fear. It's like just be smart.
Yeah.
But what are you gonna do?
Tie your kids up in the backyard and not let them do anything. But that's not what I'm advocating, though.
Then you get one of those like circles in the grass where they just keep walking around the thing like the dog.
Yeah, but if you put a backpack on them with like grass seed and you put a little hole, they're reseeding as they're walking, so you're fine.
That's nice.
Smart. Real smart.
Yeah,
it's good stuff, man.
What else you got for us, Steve?
I got a little bit of news, being that we are talking about The Last Jedi. John Williams, famed composer, he's scored all 8 of the mainline Star Wars films. He will return, so have no fear, to write the main theme for the upcoming Han Solo movie.
Nice.
So he will, but again, he will just be doing the main theme. John Powell, who wrote the music for Chicken Run and for a few other films, How to Train Your Dragon, a few others, he's going to be handling the rest of the score. So I guess
You
my
mean my
question
man
is,
Gabe Patillo's not going to be writing the score?
They asked me,
shame.
but I'm gonna be on tour, man, and I just couldn't get around to doing it.
you got to wash your
I wanted
hair,
to.
and you got to. I know.
Yeah, I don't want to.
But what do you guys think, though? Do you think that John Williams would be a little off-putted by the fact that he wasn't asked to do the whole score and nothing but the score?
No, because I think he does so much and is probably so busy. Like, I mean, Steve, I think we even talked about this. Like, he writes something and then he moves on. And like, he doesn't go back and even watch the movies that like his music is in. He's like, yeah, I wrote this, I composed this, I practiced it. We worked with the orchestra on and on and on and on. Then we finally recorded it. I mean, let's ask the resident musician here, Gabe. You write a piece of music. Yep. And you practice it, you do all that. How much do you like go back to the radio and be like, hey, here's me and Ryvan Stevenson. I'm just going to turn this on here.
Exactly.
I mean, how much of that do you do?
Well,
right?
I don't do any of it, but I would say this, why he wouldn't be upset. If you listen to Star Wars, Superman, any of these big films, these big grandiose, Lord of the Rings, you have your theme. And then usually all the music that you hear within the movie is a take off that theme. And so as long as you produce the big overarching sound of the intro, usually you're going to hear pieces of that throughout the whole rest of the movie.
It's going to be kind of reprised throughout.
Exactly. And so I think for John, if I was John, I would feel like I am doing the whole movie. I'm providing the bed that they're going to use throughout the whole movie to create the rest of the score. It's not like it's not like you're going to have like ba 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 in Superman, and then the rest of the score be like ba ba da da ba 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 da ba da ba. You know what I'm saying? It's all going to be inverses of that main theme that you hear already. So, and we don't know that John Williams wasn't asked to do the whole thing. He might have been like, yeah, I can do the score, but that's all I can give y'all. You know what I'm saying? I don't have time to do the whole movie. You know what I mean? So that could be, they might have been like, oh, we got John Williams to do the theme. You know what I'm saying? And that was a big get for them because they know that they're just going to be using iterations of it throughout anyway.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah. But anyway, and as a reminder for our listeners, that movie does come out on May 25th. It stars Donald Glover and Woody Harrelson as
I love Donald Glover.
Figure of Han. Oh my gosh!
I love Donald Glover.
I rewatched this weekend with my wife Spider-Man: Homecoming, and I forgot that Donald Glover had that small cameo where he's like, "Man, you got to get better at this."
Yeah,
when Spider-Man's trying to
and you know where that comes from, right? The cameo in Homecoming.
No.
So do you guys remember for a while? And I'm really bummed that they didn't do this, but for a while they talked about. There was a big internet push to have Donald Glover be Spider-Man in the next movie.
Yeah, because Miles Morales.
Right. And everybody was like, no, don't do it. Spider-Man can't be black. For the people that don't know the story of Spider-Man, because Spider-Man and Iron Man did it as well in the last 2 years, where Iron Man is now a young black girl. And so there was this huge pushback of like, no, don't do it. He talks about it in one of his stand-up comedy specials that he had come out, I think 3 or 4 years ago. And so what's fun is that now he's got a cameo in Spider-Man, but I really wish he would have been the voice of Miles in this new Spider-Man thing that's coming out. Because I think that would have been such poetic justice, and it would have been so perfect. But that movie looks awesome anyway. I can't wait to go see that one.
Oh, it looks so good.
My thought in saying that though is even like these small cameos, like a good actor can just make it like something special. It's not just some throwaway lines or whatever. Like Donald Glover, even in that small cameo, was like he was so good.
Yes.
And he freaking is going to be Lando Calrissian. I'm just saying,
he's going to be great. He's going to be perfect.
Man, I'm so excited for that.
He's got the perfect attitude.
I'm just glad it's not Nick Cannon or somebody silly. You know what I'm saying? It could have easily gone that way, and I'd have been like, I don't want to see that. You know what I'm saying? I'm so glad Donald Glover's doing it.
Yeah.
That joke pops up on everything else. I wouldn't have been surprised if they were like, and then Donald, Nick Cannon's gonna be Lando Calrissian. I'll be like, all right, well, I'm not seeing that.
It's like Ryan Seacrest, man. He's everywhere.
Everywhere.
Because Lando Calrissian wears socks, and we know that Nick Cannon doesn't, and that's why he didn't get the job. Every dang time on that America's Got Talent, he was on there. I was like, why is he not wearing socks, man?
It's a black thing.
Socks on.
It's a black thing.
It's a lazy thing, I think, is what it is.
My dad never
It's
wore
like,
socks growing up either. That doesn't even look weird to me. Like you wear nice
Really?
pants, nice shoes, no socks.
Yeah,
Wow.
all the time.
Something about I don't know what it is. It's normal to me.
Gabe,
I don't
this
even notice
is-
it no more.
This is something you need to save for February when you do your Black History Month on Married to the Games. Because I didn't know that about black culture, that not wearing socks is a thing.
Yeah,
and
man,
now I
it's a
know.
thing, man.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I.
Exactly.
Joe. Very cool.
Okay,
Very
well
cool.
the last thing I had is that in 2017, I'm gonna run this number by you. $39.92 billion was spent on movies in the movie theater. That's a lot of movies.
Say that number again.
39.92, so almost $40 billion was spent in the movie theaters in 2017, which is like 3% up from 2016. Now, here's the rub. They're going to lose money next year. You know why? Because I got that movie pass coming, and they ain't going to get more than $120 from me. I'm just saying.
Educate a brother, because I don't know about Movie Pass.
This has been around for a while. Like, it used to be $50 a month, and now they dropped it to $10 a month. Basically, they send you a credit card, and you get an app on your phone, and once a day, you can put in movie theaters near you, and you'll say, okay, I'm going to check in for this movie, and you can pick your time, and then they put money on the card, and you go down to the little kiosk or up to the help desk, and they swipe that card, and it pays for a movie ticket. Then the next day, I can check in at the theater, pick a movie, it loads up the money, I swipe it, or do it, kiosk, and I think they're even starting to do some without needing the card, just on the app alone, if they do like electronic ticketing at your movie theater. And you get to go see a movie for free. Because where we're from, $10 a month is cheaper than a single movie ticket, because we pay like $12 or $12.50 for a movie ticket. So at $10, it's just me. Like, my wife can't use this thing. She'd have to get her own.
How many movies can you go see in a month?
30 or 31, depending on the month. 28,
Come
I guess,
on.
in February.
One every day?
I'm not going to. One every day. Only one. That's the restriction. And you have to check into the theater. You have to use the app to check into the theater to pick the movie. But one a day for $10 a month.
Oh, I'm doing that.
Yep.
That's called extended lunch, Gabe.
It is.
So that's what I'm saying. They made $40 billion, but I'm saying with that movie pass, they ain't making $40 billion next year.
I got to do that because that'd be perfect for the road. Because that was always like the reason not to do it on the road. You're like, I don't really want to spend the money, on the days off to go see a movie and blah, blah, blah. You have so many days off. Movie pass, baby, that's happening. For sure. That's happening.
Yeah. Dude, the only downside is it takes a couple weeks. They said it could take 2 weeks to ship you the card you have to carry with you. But still, I'm like, man, I'll wait 2 weeks because I'll go see. Because here's the cool thing. Like, my wife and I, we like to go on dates, right? But that doesn't always happen. Cost of a babysitter and, making all the arrangements work. So, maybe we do that maybe once a month. Maybe once every other month we'll go to a movie together. It just kind of depends. But a lot of times now, I'll go see a movie on Saturday night and she'll go on the Friday night, the night before, because I'll stay home with the kids and she can go and then, swap. So with this thing, I just tell her to take my phone and my card and she can check in and swipe it. And then the next day I do the same thing.
Oh, boom. Shakalaka. I like all that.
Just saying, 40 billion, that number's going down next year. I'm doing my part.
He's gonna see to it personally.
Man, let me go ahead and sign up right now while we talk about it so I don't forget.
Moviepass.com.
Oh, that's happening.
Well, Steve, that is all I had for Rebel Intelligence. Did you have anything else?
I am spent.
Okay. So, Steve, last week we asked our super friends, our listeners, what they are looking forward to in 2018. We kind of went through some of the things we're looking forward to, and we gave our top 10 list of upcoming movies for us. But let's go over to the Twitter and let's see what some of our super friends had to say. So, Backlog Buster Surge at backlog_blues says, my boy's 3rd birthday, the birth of my daughter, my 4th anniversary, buying a house with my wife for our growing family, becoming more awesome.
Hey.
Ooh, I like that last one.
That's a busy 2018. I'm saying, like, and I start doing the math. I'm like, his boy's third birthday, his 4th anniversary. I'm saying honeymoon, baby. Just doing little quick math.
Right.
Festivus
was a
for
math
the
major,
rest
by
of
the way,
us.
so.
That's true. 2 + 2 = blue, baby. I know it. Festivus for the rest of us at dspin67 says,
Hey.
Trip to Chi-Town this spring, getting engaged, my little guy turning 5, trip to Nashville for 300, married to the game,
Oh, there you go.
finishing certifications, and possibly starting animation school.
Yeah.
# FON
What?
answers. Man, come on now. That's a busy
does that.
2018 also.
I like it.
That is cool, man.
Backlog Buster Trash Turkey at Trash Turkey
Love
says,
that guy.
finding out the Switch Virtual Console, or finding out about the Switch Virtual Console from Nintendo. Hopefully they don't scrap it. Man, I am with you. I want to play some of the old games on that Switch.
What is taking so long?
Make that happen. Right? I mean, they had it for the Nintendo Wii and the Wii U. We can't make that happen for the Switch.
Well, and they promised to have their online thing going by Christmas, and they had to push that back. And come on now,
I don't know. We'll see.
Nintendo, I need you to get your life together.
Jake and Tom Conker at the Drunken Dork, and he just put the
the
GIF of Avengers Infinity War. So that the Drunken Dork, that's the Jake and Tom Conker podcast. They're looking forward to Avengers Infinity War, and I know we're looking forward to that.
That's
as well.
the next big thing I'm looking forward to, man. Even watching The Last Jedi, the trailer hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, man, I cannot wait to see that movie.
That looks incredible.
Oh man, I'm so excited. And Gabe, you and
Who
I
are
got to
you
talk
guys?
about the book Ready Player One. I'm telling you and I
all
will
right.
talk about that later.
Okay,
I'm telling you,
I'm
that's so good. I'm looking forward to that movie. Anyway, Facebook, Caleb Albers says, I'm super looking forward to the future episodes of Fortress of Nerditude. Oh, come on now, Caleb.
Look
That's
at
awesome.
that.
He says, but
You.
yeah, I know. You let me see what you're doing. Your check is in the mail, sir.
Exactly.
He says, but in the realm of films, I have to say that I'm looking forward to mostly Avengers Infinity War because of obvious reasons. But besides that, I'm super excited to see Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'm really looking forward to see what they do after the events of Infinity War. A couple other films I'm looking forward to are Ready Player One. I'm on board.
Okay.
Alita Battle Angel. That's that movie, I think, where the girl has like the really wide-looking eyes and she looks like she's some sort of
looks
android. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw a preview for that. I don't know yet on that, but
I don't know
Caleb,
that. I
I'll
don't know
give you
that
the opportunity to win me over. He says, I'm hoping both of those are really good films, even though with Elite, I'm not a huge fan of the anime shows. So we'll see. I'm on the fence. Okay, and the last one we got, our good friend and my brother, Josh Stapleton, says,
Street
yeah,
team.
come on, Steve, give it to me.
The bum.
Bum, yeah, every time. Okay, says, I have my eye on a couple of video games, Far Cry 5, Red Dead Redemption 2, and Spider-Man. Oh man, Spider-Man. Is that going to be in 2018 though? I don't know.
Yeah, they said.
Did they?
Yeah.
You don't think that's going to
Really?
get pushed back?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm just still hoping it's still in 2018.
He says, movie-wise, I'm sure there'll be some good ones, but I'm not all that enthusiastic about Solo, since I will struggle to accept any movie not with Harrison Ford as Han Solo.
What?
I mean,
Harrison can't play a young Han Solo.
and
And we don't know that he's not in it. We don't know that it doesn't do a little span into the future at the very end. Or
he's
something
Grandpa
like that.
Solo or something.
No, I'm saying like where, you
With
know,
the tennis
just,
balls on the bottom of the walker, and then they.
I'm just saying we don't know that they don't do the whole thing young and then like towards the end they just show them like, you know, some sort of events between, you know, before
Right.
7 or something.
It could be. He says, with Marvel movies, I'm hopeful that Infinity War will be good, but I honestly thought the last 2 Marvel movies I watched were either mediocre, Thor Ragnarok, or downright boring, Guardians 2. Now, that's heresy in my family, Josh. We've talked about
Really?
this, but you're entitled to your own opinions. But
I heard Thor was incredible.
It is incredible. I'm not gonna disparage my brother. However, I think his complaint why he did not like the film is not shared by many people. That's all I'll say.
Oh, okay.
But it's an excellent film. I loved it, and I highly recommend it. He says, TV-wise, I'm interested in X-Files, but I still need to finish the last season. I love me some good old X-Files. But yeah, I missed out on the stuff that was on Netflix and the last couple seasons of the original run. I mean,
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it might be hard for me to jump back in at this point. Anyway, we love interacting with our super friends, our listeners. Thank you so much for taking the time to answer our question. We appreciate your time and effort because without you, we wouldn't be doing this.
That's right. Mm-hmm. That's right.
Now, Steve, what can our super friends, our listeners, what can they do to help us out, man?
They can go listen to Married to the Games because it's a fantastic podcast. And then after that, come listen to ours. And rate us on iTunes.
I love that.
This podcast is sponsored by Married to the Games. What?
Exactly.
That's right.
I will
this
PayPal you
spawned from
$5
Married to the
right now.
Games.
Yeah.
Right. We'll do 2.5.
So here's the thing. Every month we do a movie club where we review a movie, we talk about a movie. We usually go spoiler free. We're not going to do that this time. We're gonna jump into it. We're gonna talk. We're gonna get into spoilers because I think there's no way not to do this.
Yeah.
So the spoiler warning is now. I mean, it's like
the spoiler warning is now.
Then,
if you've not seen Star Wars: The Last Jedi, pause.
Go listen to Married to the Games.
Go listen to Married to the Games. Then go see
Star Wars.
Jedi.
And then come back and
get the
finish
movie
the
club,
podcast.
$10 a month, and then go see.
Exactly. Wait 2 weeks for the card to show up.
Nice. Yes. Okay, so let's jump into this. So I want to ask you guys, Gabe, when did you see The Last Jedi? Did you go opening weekend? Did you go a little after?
I went the Thursday before, it comes out on Friday.
Yeah.
I went and saw it the Thursday before at 8:00 p.m.
Okay, so let me ask you, in your experience, so you had opening night experience, right? Was the place jam-packed full of people dressed up like Wookiees and Banthas and all that?
They don't let people dress up here anymore.
What?
Really?
Ever since the Batman thing happened in Colorado, they don't let people dress up and wear masks and stuff anymore here in Nashville.
That's too bad. So
it is,
a
but you
lot of
gotta
people
feel
at least
safe.
have Star Wars shirts on?
Oh yeah, everybody had Star Wars shirts on.
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I had mine on. Yeah, of course.
Okay, so you got to do that. I went on Friday night of opening weekend. Our good friend of the podcast, super friend Jason Both, he called me up and said, "Hey, I got some spare tickets. I know you couldn't work out your babysitter thing, so you're going Saturday night with your wife. Do you want to come to a corporate event Friday night?" And I was like, yes, please.
I know that's
so
right.
I got to go see it. Friday night and then Saturday night on opening weekend. And my experience was probably similar to yours, Gabe. It was packed full of people. Everyone was raucous, and before the show started, they did kind of their corporate event stuff where they're kind of shilling the companies that are kind of putting this thing on. And so we didn't get previews. I don't know.
What?
I don't know if that's a normal thing, but they didn't play previews because they did all the other stuff before it. So
this is why I was a little disappointed. They did do previews when I went and saw it, but they didn't play Mortal Engines, which is what I really wanted to see because they, Peter Jackson had said, "Hey, we're going to be playing Mortal Engines before The Last Jedi," and that didn't happen.
Have you seen that trailer though?
Of course, I've seen it now. Yes, of course.
And
very interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting looking, isn't it?
Yeah, I was like, it sounded so ridiculous to me, so I didn't have my hopes up. I was like, cities on wheels attacking small towns. That sounds stupid. And so when I saw the thing, I was like, oh, okay, well, that looks like what I thought it would look like. Mad Max,
Twisted Metal.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, okay, well, yeah, that's what I thought. How to make that interesting, I'm not sure, but we'll see.
Yeah. Okay, so you got previews except for Mortal Engines. I didn't get any previews that night. Steve, you went and saw the movie tonight, right before the podcast.
This is your first time seeing it?
7:45 to be exact. First time.
Oh, snap.
It was a busy week.
Golly.
2 weeks.
That means it's been a busy couple weeks.
Yeah.
So how many
Literally
people were in your theater experience?
12.
What?
So.
Wow.
Oh,
There was
man.
an older couple sitting about three seats away that kept cackling at every time the little fur balls came up on the. They would giggle.
The porgs.
It was nice.
Yeah.
The porgs. That's right.
It's a great story about the porgs, by the way.
Yeah.
I love the behind the scenes, because a lot of people didn't like the porgs,
Right.
and but I
like the porgs.
I love the reason that they were in the movie. But go ahead, we can talk about that later.
No,
To feed Chewie at the spit when he's roasting him.
No, on the island that they shot, there was so many birds around that they couldn't. I think they're called puffins. What's the name of the real birds? So there was so many puffins on that island that they were like, it will take forever to CGI out all these birds. We'll just create a new species and kind of put on top of them, and that's where the porgs were born.
Really?
Yes.
Also, interesting note about that island. There's these weird alien nuns that were there too, and they just decided to keep them in the movie.
Just change the face a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, so
That's awesome.
when I saw the reason they put the porgs in there, I was like, oh, that's a great reason. Like,
That
for
is
as much
awesome.
as hate as the porgs got, which I thought they were great for the movie, but I was like, yeah, man, they're puffins, just masked as porgs.
Right. I mean, at least it wasn't as bad as like the CGI $25 million to remove Superman's mustache in Justice League.
Man,
right?
and just make him look like he got a big upper lip.
Yeah. So I mean, it could have been worse, I guess. Okay, so Steve, you saw it tonight. Gabe and I saw it.
Just saw it tonight.
Opening
Fresh,
weekend.
hot off the burner, man.
So let's. I want to ask this question, and then we'll talk about the podcast. Or talk.
We're
about
about to
the movie
spoil
on
The Last
podcast.
Jedi, just in case you're still listening.
Yeah, if you haven't, I mean, we already talked about the puffins. We've spoiled everything now.
The cover's blown. Pandora's box is open.
Okay, Steve, since you just saw it most recently, what did you think of the movie just overall? Where are you at on it?
It was good, and it was heart-wrenching for so many different reasons. And the end left me unsettled. I'll say that. But overall, I mean, music was great, cinematography, I mean, all of those visual aspects and kind of the nuts and bolts that kind of helped to make the movie were good. But there are some things that I take pause to, I take issue with. So
Okay. Gabe, what was your like overall impression after you saw it the first time?
So when I walked out of the theater, I was like, yes, I loved that movie. I mean, I was on cloud 9 leaving the theater. And then you drive home and, the honeymoon period fades. You start talking to people. You start seeing reviews and how people are done with Star Wars and, totally upset with what Rain did to the movie. And,
Right.
Your love starts turning into, you start questioning your love. Like, did I love it? Did I not love it? And this is where I landed. I could pick the movie apart, but I choose not to because it's Star Wars. There's so many things. It's kind of like when Final Fantasy VII gets re-released, whenever that happens, if it ever happens, I will tear it apart in my heart because I love Final Fantasy VII so much. But I have to ask myself, what have I been asking for since Final Fantasy VII came out and people started remastering things and remaking them?
Yeah.
Please remake Final Fantasy VII, right?
Yep.
And so what have I been asking for my whole life about Star Wars? Please make a 7, 8, and 9, right?
And make
so
them good.
And make them
Right.
good.
Yeah, right.
And so I'm choosing to love it because it's Star Wars and forgive it for its flaws. Now, we're all married.
Yep.
My wife's not going to listen to this podcast, so I can say my wife is not perfect, right? But she's an amazing woman. And she
Hold
does
on, wait a
so
second.
many...
Wait a second. Let me just text Jenny right now. You are not going to believe what he just said. No.
But she is an amazing woman, and the things that she does right so outweigh the things that she does wrong. And I choose, just like all of us that are married, every day is not this honeymoon fairy tale marriage. Some days, I know, right? Some days love is a choice. Some days love is a feeling. You know what I'm saying? And so right now I'm choosing to love Star Wars Episode 8. And in going back and reading reviews of the original Star Wars, when the original Star Wars came out, you're like, ooh, it seems like we have a little bit of nostalgia going on when it seems to how we remember 4, 5, and 6. They might not have been so hit it out the park as we might remember. And so that's where I'm placing myself. And I'm saying, you know what? I've wanted new Star Wars for forever. Disney is giving me new Star Wars. They're asking people to make them in a year's time, in the sense of like, they want 7 to come out, then a story in between, then 8 to come out, then a story in between, then 9 to come out. That's a tall task. It's not like, hey, take 10 years or however you need to really get it right. They're not giving these directors that kind of leeway. So I'm choosing to love it, and I'm sticking by loving it, even though, of course, there's a bunch of things I'd be like, yeah, but what about this? Yeah, but what about this? I'm choosing to like put that to the side and say, I freaking love Star Wars Episode 8. What about you, Spence?
I had this experience where like, I love Star Wars. Like innately, it's been a part of my entire childhood, my teenage years, my adulthood. Like it's just, I have such a love for it. And I went in wanting to love this movie so bad because I had this experience with The Force Awakens where I liked The Force Awakens and I liked it a lot, but I did realize that it was a retread of A New Hope and that it was a little safe in some aspects. But it did introduce a few things that I was like, okay, this is given enough nuggets, enough crumbs to want me to keep following the trail to see what's going to happen the next time because they could really go anywhere with it. Mm-hmm. And so I went in wanting to love it. And I sat through that first movie experience and like everyone around me is like going nuts at certain parts. And I was like, really?
Yeah.
This doesn't make sense. I was like, this doesn't make sense for, and we'll get into this here in a minute, but there was all these parts I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense storytelling wise. It doesn't seem to fit the narrative from all the movies and the character issues. Mm-hmm. And I walked out of the theater and went, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, and Gabe, I texted you and
that's right.
And I was like,
I think I texted you, man. I was like,
well, yeah, you texted me. Yeah. You did. You texted me, and I was like, I know, I got to wait till tomorrow, and then I saw it later that night. But like, I came out and I was just like, I don't know, man. There's so many things that like I liked about it, but then there was all these other things I'm like I didn't like, and so like I was kind of on the fence. I had the opportunity though to go the next night with my wife, and I will say that I liked it. I enjoyed the overall movie experience more the second time because I was like, okay, now I know some of these things, and so let's try not to focus on those because that's been spoiled for me. I know what it is. Let's look at the whole thing, and I did enjoy it more. But as a little bit of time's gone by, I've kind of sat there and went, okay. Do I love this movie? The answer is no. I don't love it. I like it. It's a good movie on its own. Its merits, like if this movie were in a bubble and Star Wars didn't exist and was just this one movie, man, it would be fantastic. But the problem is I'm a huge Star Wars fan and it's part of a much larger collection of movies and video games and books and comics and toys and everything, right? Mm-hmm. That unfortunately, it seems like it's hard to divorce all the other stuff and look at it just on its own because I have to put it in the frame of reference of like, how does it line up with this? How does it fit in with this? What's going to come after it? And so because of that, I was like, I like the movie, but I don't love it. And that's hard for me to say because I want to love it so much.
Sure.
But there was just things.
So I guess how do we attack this? Because there's some things that I do want to talk about, and I want to get your guys' opinion about it. I want to tell some things that some challenges that I think I had with the film. I mean, let's do this. I want to talk about a few of the new characters I think maybe first that were added in this movie because some of these characters added to the Star Wars story and added things, and then others I was kind of like, yeah. First was the character of Rose. What did you guys think of Rose? Rose is the kind of the girl that's kind of like behind the scenes. She's like kind of watching like the escape pods. Her sister was the
was the woman that gave up her life on that bombing run at the very beginning of the movie to drop those bombs, which I got to say, those are the slowest moving spaceships ever. And I don't understand how gravity works in space.
The whole movie was slow moving ships. I was like, how do you have light speed or neutral down a small grade hill? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
gosh.
I was like, how you can go that fast or just troll along?
Right. So,
I think Rose is like the Asian female version of Scotty on Star Trek, right? That's kind of her role.
Yeah.
She's a machine. She's in like the bowels of the ship. I at first, when she first was there and she was talking about how Finn had done all these great things and ends up tasing him and stuff.
The Finn. You're the Finn.
Right? The Finn, right?
Yeah.
You're the Finn. I was kind of like, yeah. But then as it progressed, I kind of she had some pretty ballsy moves that she did at the casino and then later on in the film. I thought so. I actually grew to really like her.
For me, her character was like, I didn't kind of know where they were going to go with it. I didn't not like her, but like if they would have not had her character in the movie, I don't know that it would have changed the overall film.
No.
Here's the problem.
Definitely not. I don't think so.
It's hard for me to like Rose when I feel like Rose and Finn's storyline was garbage.
Yep.
Like their whole part of the movie wasn't good for me. And so It was hard for me to attach to her not liking that whole narrative. It felt like what they didn't need to happen anyway. Like, because it feels like, what did they end up accomplishing in the end? If you don't end up accomplishing anything, then why do we tell this story? You know what I'm saying? You weren't even a diversion. You weren't even and you didn't set out to do what you were trying to do in the first place. So how did you actually help? And then we're going to talk about a moment that the climax of their story doesn't happen.
Right.
It's an anti-climax as to what happens with their story. Because when what we'll talk about almost happens, you're like, okay, here we go. Oh no, it didn't. And now a strange left turn into a relationship. So
on to the rest of the story.
Yeah, and so for me, I feel like poor Rose and the actress that plays her, because she's getting pummeled on the internet, just like things do. But you don't deserve to be pummeled when you have nothing to do with the story that was written for you to play.
She didn't write the character.
Yeah, exactly. And so I just feel like we didn't even need you guys to do. You didn't do anything. You know what I mean?
So let me jump in and say this. Like, I actually liked her acting. I thought, as far as like the actress that plays the character of Rose, like she played this perfect, like naive, sweet, like, pie in the sky, her head's in the clouds. Like she's looking at the bright, optimistic future of what could be if the First Order's toppled. And she wants
Leia's
to be a
hope,
part of
basically.
Yeah. She's bought all into that. And I think she actually played that really, really, really well. But like Gabe said, the problem is that whole storyline, the whole purpose of that character is kind of for nothing. Now, and maybe it's that it illustrates that things don't always succeed and that failure is part of this world, because it does illustrate that like what they went out to do, they failed at. They did not accomplish anything. But for me, as a movie, goer, I want to see a story that, that everything has a reason. And I felt like their whole storyline, we're going to go to Canto Bight and we're going to go to this, casino and find this slicer, and Codebreaker's going to, do this. Like it just went nowhere. And it really, for me, like dragged the pacing of the movie down.
I was about
every
to say,
single time we saw them.
Didn't it feel like there was no urgency to what they were doing?
Absolutely.
Like it felt like very walk through the field and smell the roses on your way, instead of like, hey, back where we're trying to say, we got to go. We're about to run out of fuel.
Right.
Like I've never seen somebody run out of fuel for 3 hours. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you need to go to a
16
gas
hours, I
station,
think.
yeah, if you need to go to a gas station, like, you got to go to a gas station, not like, oh, they're almost out. Oh, they're almost out. They're not going to have enough for that leap jump or the light speed.
You know, it's funny, Gabe, because as you mentioned that, you know, as I freshly have watched this, as they're sitting, and we'll talk about this in a second, when Poe and, you know, Finn and Rose come to Poe and say, okay, here's the plan. Here's what we're going to do. We got to get off the ship. And I was thinking, like, we got time for this, man? Like, they're right on your tail,
Yeah,
man.
like, they right
got time
behind
to leave
you, also in neutral.
Exactly.
Yeah. and how are they not going to see you, right? It's like,
Right.
and this little ship's gonna bust off. But here's the thing, like, there could have been an opportunity in the casino scene that I think if they would have done this one thing, it would have redeemed that whole scene for me. And this is very
Play
much
blackjack.
this is very much the fanboy in me. If when they were panning through the crowd
Oh, yeah,
of
come
all
on,
the
Lando.
casino people, if Billy D. Williams, Lando Calrissian was there just as a cameo, like he did, even if he was like, you pirate or something like that, just like some like little cameo. He didn't need to be the code breaker for me. Like he didn't need to be a big character, but if he was just there, because that's the kind of place Lando would be, like that moment for me would have been like, all's forgiven. It's Billy D. Williams. That's awesome. But
Right.
no.
And then I think the other thing that I needed to happen in the casino, because I could not stand that scene, I needed them to explain, does Maz know what she's talking about, or does she not know what she's talking about? Is it the guy with the red lapel, or is it not the guy with the red lapel? Did Benicio del Toro lose that jacket in a bet because he's such a gambler to that guy, and that guy wasn't the code breaker, and Benicio del Toro was the code breaker,
Right.
or they just happened? She said there's one guy that can do it, or does there just happen to be two guys that can do it?
Right? Because then the guy ultimately ends up doing it, right? Like,
Because Benicio del Toro
Yeah.
does what he needed to do, and so
exactly.
did they even? Was that Benicio's jacket? Because the jacket didn't go with the outfit that he was wearing. So
Right,
I
exactly.
needed there to be a storyline that said, man, Benicio del Toro is a bad man. He's a hacker, but he's also just addicted to gambling. And he had a bad run that night. And he even bet his jacket and lost that bet. And that's why another guy's wearing the red lapel. Not
Right.
See, that would have been nice. That'd have been a nice tie-in. Yeah.
That would have been very nice. They didn't tie in anything. They took time to talk about these animals and animal cruelty. And I was like, right now? We're going to talk about animal cruelty right now?
Right.
PETA sponsored a quarter of the movie, so they had to get their little say.
I guess, but it's like animal cruelty versus
But
things
then,
that don't
they had the
exist.
tie-in at the end with the stall hands, so it was nice, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have
Did
been a
you
million
feel as
different
well?
ways.
So going back to the point about, you know, the kind of the pacing of the movie and whatnot, I really did feel. I mean, this was probably one of the only Star Wars I've ever checked my watch several times on. Sad to say. And did you feel like every time they would pan back from the casino scene, or when they're running with the animals or whatever else, back to the cruiser, that another ship would be falling out of, and then we've got another one. We're one step closer. I'm like, oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Like every half an hour they would go back and another ship was. Keep
I
shooting.
felt the exact same way about that.
Every single time Luke or Leia was on the screen, my attention was there. But every time they're like, and we've lost a ship, and we've lost another ship, and we're on the casino in Canto Bight, I'm like, because it just felt like the pacing dragged in those moments.
Yeah.
Like there was stuff going on, but like it's just like I don't know what it is about these new movies, like the Finn, Poe, Rey characters. Like I'm interested, but like I'm not hooked. And maybe that's just because in my generation, you know, it was Luke, Han, and Leia, you know, and that's what hooked me. And so like that's where I identify with and what I want to see more of. But like, man, the whole thing with Finn and Rose, like they acted it well. They did well for what they did, but just the story was it was so slow that like it did pull me out of the experience.
I can't even take Finn serious. I didn't even like him in this movie, honestly.
Yeah.
Which sucks because I loved him in the first one.
He was great. Yes.
He was great. But like this one, like he feels like an emotionally stunted man. And so like
I couldn't
I can't
agree
even
more.
I can't even see him in a relationship with a woman in these movies. Like, he seems like he's the guy that always has the bad idea. Like, it seemed like every time he said something like, oh, we should do this,
Right.
they're like, no, we're not doing that. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
You're like,
No.
well, what do you have to add, actually? You know what I'm saying? Like, you didn't even do anything in, like, did he even, like, lightsaber fight anybody this movie? You know what I'm saying? I mean,
he
I know
did
he
have-
did with Homegirl.
Yeah.
He
Well,
had that quick fight
yeah.
with the girl after the ship exploded.
Yeah, Captain
Phasma.
Phasma. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, like, you know, even to my point, it's like, y'all brought Captain Phasma in here for like 7 minutes. That's what she
Just
gets.
so-
You know,
Just so she could fall into a pit again or into something again.
A
It's
tie
like,
back
come
to the
on.
last one. I was like, geez, Louise.
So I could agree more, Gabe. I felt like, you know, with The Force Awakens, like I wasn't really connected with any of the three, you know, with Poe, with Rey, or with Finn. In this movie, I felt like Poe finally stood up and like did something, and I felt like he had a bit of a Han Solo-esque to him. He had a bit of the fly, you know, like the kind of
flyboy thing.
Take,
yeah.
you know, so. Yeah, so I was sold on Poe this movie. Rey, I was sold on Rey in this movie, but yeah, Finn has been blank slate.
Well, what's
for
hard
me.
is that obviously they're remaking the big three, right? So
Right.
Poe is supposed to be Han.
Right.
Rey is supposed to be Luke, and then
Right.
you miss when it comes to when it comes to Poe. Well, I mean, when it comes to Finn,
Finn,
you're like,
yeah.
well, who's
Yeah.
Finn supposed to be? Like, he's not gonna
He's
be
Winston in
Obi-Wan.
Ghostbusters.
That's for sure. You know, yeah, exactly. And you're like, well, who where does he fit in here? Because he's not
Winston
Luke, Leia, or
Zeddemore.
Han. You know,
Yeah.
so I
It was-
struggled with him big time. You know, and I think too, the thing that this movie lacked, which the Last Jedi, the Force Awakens had, was they had the ability to introduce you to new characters, which this
Yep.
movie kind of had, but kind of didn't. And as Spence, I'd love to get back to your list. You know, we got to meet Rose and try to fall in love with Rose, but
Right.
then again, Rose didn't really get to do anything. But like, who else do I get to fall in love with? You didn't even like introduce me to the people on these other ships that are getting like that are exploding. So like, I want to at least care
Why
about
should I
somebody
care?
on the ship,
Right.
But they're
Yeah.
like just
Now-
faceless ships that just kind of drift back, and
So
you know,
So let's get to that point. Like Rose, DJ is the master code breaker, right? That we kind of talked about in the casino scene. And the other real big character we meet is Admiral Holdo, right? She's the one that kind of takes over for Leia after
Yeah,
Leia, becomes injured. And Holdo, like, they actually gave her lines and gave her a story.
Yep.
And so like for me, like I was interested in her character, but only because it was playing like a foil to Poe, right? Because Poe wanted to go guns a-blazing, like Holdo's like, no, I'm in charge. What are you, a captain now? She's like, there's an order. I'm taking control. I know what Leia would do. This is what I'm doing. And for as much as like it kind of seemed most of the way through the film, like to me, it seemed like she didn't have a clue what she was actually doing. She was just trying to continue what Leia was doing. Like her character, even though like the character does not make it and will not be seen in other movies most likely, because I don't see they do a flashback for her. Her character does have that moment in the scene where she realizes that she has to sacrifice herself in order to help the rebels, the resistance, get away. How did that moment hit you guys? Because for me, that seemed like it was like the one moment in the movie where I was like, yes, like this character was for this one moment, and it's going to be a big payoff, and it paid off for me really, really well.
Gabe, you want to take that
away.
one? Oh, yeah, I'll take it. So yeah, for me as well, I think that might have been one of the only moments in the movie that was kind of a high point, a climax where I was like, it felt like the rebel spirit, of
Yeah.
like, we're gonna just, it was almost like in like the Force Awakens when they had the two, Star Destroyers that they disabled and they came through and broke through the ozone layer at the end.
Are you talking about the Force Awakens? Or are you talking about
Rogue One? I'm sorry, Rogue One.
Oh, right.
Rogue One.
Yeah, Rogue One. Battle
Anyway,
of
but yeah,
Scarif.
so that was
Yeah.
so when Laura Dern's character, turns the ship around, hits light speed and pierces, that's
the
that
entire
was a huge
fleet.
payoff. Yeah, the entire fleet. It was a huge scene for me. So,
And am I right? I don't remember exactly. Is she a kind of a callback from one of the novels or the comics or something like that? Did we know her before this?
Not that I'm aware of, but however, I haven't read some of the most recent novels that kind of fill in some of the gaps between.
I heard that she was kind of a fan service in the sense of like, now that Disney's done away with all the comics and the books and said those are not canon. I think her character was in there a little bit, so it's kind of fan service for her to be in this movie. The only problem I had with her was they almost played her like she was the bad guy. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, not only is she going against Poe, but like there's like kind of like this spy on the ship, and why do they know where we're going all the time? And blah, blah, blah. They're kind of a step ahead of us. And they kind of played it like she was the spy. And so for her to take the turn towards the end, literally and figuratively, I was like, okay, that seems like all of a sudden she's got this huge heart, where before she was like just stern and like, this is what we're doing because that's what Leia would do. That's what we're doing. And then all of a sudden she really cares. I was like, man, that's just a really quick turn that she's doing. And then obviously when she starts turning the ship, you're like, oh, I see what she's going to do. I thought it was cool. It didn't kill everybody. So you're like,
it would have been much better for the rebels if she would have killed everyone for sure. I'll tell you
her aim was a little bit off from the bridge.
I didn't look at it, Gabe, as a heart issue. It was more like she's just a very matter of fact, straightforward. Like these are the facts, and it was like these are the facts. And she obviously knew that by continuing on far enough along, she was going to give the rebels, the resistance, a chance to break away and use kind of their cloaking technology to escape. And once she realized that wasn't going to happen, then it was like, okay, here's my next set of information. Now the only thing I have left to me is to do this, which is turn my ship around and make the jump to light speed in the same sector as these other ships in an attempt to buy them more time and slow them down and disable some.
And I think that was part of the storytelling of having Poe again realize, and Leia has that line with him after she does what she's doing to say, like, she did this to save all of us, and whatnot. And he has kind of another realization that maybe guns ablazing isn't always the best way. And I think that they kind of used her coyness or her sternness in the beginning to kind of be able to position that as an aha moment for Poe.
For Poe. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Oh, that's what she was doing. We weren't really, we were both trying to meet the same goal, I guess.
So Poe in this movie, I don't know about you guys, but I really liked Poe in this movie. I feel like even though his character didn't develop as much as I would have liked, I felt like it still felt his character was pretty much on par with who he was in The Force Awakens. And I really liked that about it.
Yeah, plus, I really like Poe. I like him a lot. I like the guns blazing. You got to have that guy. You got to have the guy that's, full of vinegar and ready to go and no, we got to do this. No, we got to do this. You need that guy, especially around everybody else is let's slow it on down and make sure that we got everything just right before we, you know what I'm saying? You need the guy that's foot on the gas.
What did you think about that first scene though, when they open up and they're getting ready to fire the huge guns on the rebel base, and then it's just Poe. You see his X-wing just fly up into the screen. It's just him alone.
Yeah, I
loved that.
I was about to say he was who I wanted him to be. You know what I'm saying? I want him to want. He's the guy that wants to be the hero. You know what I'm saying? He's like, I can do it. I got it. No. Let's go. You need that guy, especially in these movies, because nobody else is that guy. Luke's like, I don't want to. Poe, every idea Finn's got is bad, and homegirl's off trying to find herself. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so what I thought was interesting too. I hadn't realized that Poe and Rey had never met. And, at the end of the movie, he's like, Rey. She's like, yeah, Poe, nice to meet you. I was like,
yeah,
these jokers haven't met yet? I didn't even realize that they hadn't met. And it was one of my big gripes about the movie is that we didn't get Leia, Han, and Luke together. And then you don't really get Rey, Poe, and Finn together either. And so I'm like, man, these are kind of telling all these separate stories. I want them to be on a unified front together, not so much unified front separate. But that's just
because in the original trilogy, once Luke and Han get to the Death Star and they get Leia, then they're kind of like a threesome through the rest of that film pretty much.
Right.
And even when they're apart, like they're talking to each other on the headsets, and then they're together in Empire at the beginning, and then they kind of split off, which they kind of need to, but then they come back in Return of the Jedi and they're all together again, and like
weren't they in the trash compactor and everything together?
Yeah, that's a great scene.
And so you're like, why are they not getting into trouble together? Why are they not like, it's us versus everybody? You know what I'm saying? That's what I miss about these movies. It doesn't feel like it's us three versus the galaxy. You know what I'm saying? It feels like it's Rey needing to figure that out, which she's on the island for too long. And then it's, Poe, doing his thing, trying to talk them into that, with Finn kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, we can do that. And so, but I need them like all three, like it's us, we are the movie, and we're going to save the thing. You know what I mean? Instead of it just so happening being saved by all these different things that are happening.
So let's talk Kylo Ren and Rey. This was I don't know, like everyone's like, they should have a romance, like before the movie came out, they should get together, they should hook up. And I'm like, what? Who wants this? I'm like, no. But
I don't know.
In this movie, they had these moments where like they were against each other, and obviously Rey's like, you're a monster, you're a snake, But like as the movie went on, they used what they're calling online Force time, a version of FaceTime through the Force.
Lord have mercy.
They have these moments though, like where they have these conversations, and it's almost like they're starting on like two opposite ends, and they're slowly getting closer and closer to like almost like a friendship, and that you get that moment where
frenemies,
where like they get together and they're with Snoke, and you realize like this is gonna happen, like they're gonna join forces and they're gonna get together, and that scene was probably one of the best scenes in the movie.
Woo!
Because
that was
they just rip it up.
Yeah,
I mean,
when he turns the lightsaber, that was sweet. That was awesome.
Yeah, and he turns the saber towards his true enemy, and Snoke's got his eyes closed and thinks he's got the whole thing figured out. Yeah. It took a little bit of his omniscience away, for me, for Snoke, because he's acting it out in real life, so it can mask what he's feeling, what he's actually doing. We everybody understands that, but I was like, whatever about Snoke dying. I understand people are upset. They're like, well, JJ set the table. And then you brought McDonald's, but JJ already made Thanksgiving dinner. Why'd you bring McDonald's?
Right.
They kind of feel like he's burned down the stories that JJ was trying to tell. But I was more like, I needed them to either team up and be against the ultimate evil. Because I don't know if I'm buying Kylo as the ultimate evil yet. Because he's still like a prepubescent child when it comes to throwing fits and stuff like that. Not that Darth didn't throw a fit or two. You know what I'm saying? He got upset too, but it was just so much more controlled. And obviously he's a younger man and, going to be susceptible to his feelings a little bit more. But that scene where they were hitting it up with the Red Knights or whatever the freak they're called.
Yeah, the Praetorian Guards. Ooh.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Them jokers was getting it.
The only thing I didn't like about that is like the weapons the Praetorian Guards had looked cool, but I'm like, can these weapons really hold up to the lightsaber? Yeah. I was like, what? I was like, the guy's got nunchucks and a lightsaber. How's this working? Come on now.
Well, and also like if Kylo Ren can't defeat a guard on his own, how's he going to defeat Rey or Luke Skywalker or anybody else? At that point, I was kind of like, is he really, like Gabe said, is he really the ultimate evil? I don't know.
He's already been beaten by Rey once already.
I know.
And kind of by did he fight Finn for a split second in Force Awakens?
But he tore up Finn pretty quick. I mean, that's why Finn got that big lightsaber cut up the back and was like in the kind of like the healing back to the chamber thing. Yeah.
But it's like, he already kind of like, got beat up by Rey already once. And so, he might just not be a good fighter. On for real.
I mean,
he's like not a good test taker. I'm not a good test taker.
I felt like in this movie, Kylo is like the development of his character wasn't, I don't know, like it wasn't very strong. Like it kind of seemed like it continued on. Now he was not as whiny in this movie as he was during The Force Awakens.
He did throw a tantrum though.
He did.
He did.
Oh,
In the
you don't like my
elevator
helmet?
and-
Bang, bang, bang. No more helmet. I'm done. It was kind of.
I love
silly,
when he
but
was like, "Take that silly thing off," or whatever he called it.
yes,
I love
was like,
that. I was like,
finally.
well, I think that what Ryan did so good about this movie, because number one, I'm the one who said I loved it, and I sound like I'm tearing it up. There is things I loved about this movie, and one of the things I love that Ryan did was he took away some of the pomp and circumstance behind things that we thought were really important. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like Vader's mask was like such a thing when it came to Star Wars. And then like JJ kind of set Kylo's mask up like that too. Like this is his thing.
Right.
It changes his voice. It makes him and you know, for him to call it a stupid thing, or for Luke to toss the lightsaber after he's holding it, you know, he kind of took these things that we held sacred and just broke them. You know what I'm saying? Where,
right.
you know, Luke calls Jedi vanity. You know, that's vain that we would think that we were the
Hubris.
ones to. Yeah, I loved all that. I was like, break it down, because we can't have the Skywalker bloodline just continue on. We can't have that. We have to move away from the old guard and bring in this new blood. You know, as Steve mentioned with the kid in the stalls later in the movie. But I love that he destroyed it, because I feel like it's a breaking of tradition, and we kind of have to move into a new direction, which I think that people are not liking. You know, it's the juxtaposition of people saying, man, Force Awakens was just like episode 4.
Give us something new.
Yeah, give us something new. And then this one, they're like, whoa, pull back. That's too much new
Not
stuff.
that new. Not that new. Yeah. No, I'm with you, Gabe. It's one of those things where, like, oh man, we had these moments, right? And I loved the idea that they were like, you know, hey, because Rian Johnson really did drive home the message over and over and over in this movie. You don't have to be a Skywalker. You know, you don't have to be from this bloodline to be a Jedi, you know, to have the Force, which I'm fine with on a storytelling level, because it's good. That's true. That's absolutely. But my problem was, if you go back to like the prequels, which I know is a very dirty word, and I'm sorry, but you go back to the prequels, like, man, there was Jedi all over the place until Order 66, and they wiped them out. And so like we've had Jedi and we've had Sith for thousands and thousands of years. It just so happens to be that George Lucas decided to focus his story around a certain family, basically. And like, that's where he was going to try to tell his story. And so like, I get that a lot of people are really, really excited, and they're like, yeah, but it's, you know, it's the Skywalker thing. It's not the Solo thing. It's not the Skywalker thing. I'm like, yeah, I get that. But at the same time, like, we've known that there's been other Jedis around for a long time. I don't know why, like, it was almost like that.
Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson couldn't look any less like a Skywalker.
Right?
You know what I'm saying? And we have to remember, Luke had a school where he was teaching kids how to do this. So obviously, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but it did feel a little heavy-handed. I was like, okay, I got it. I got the message. I'm cool. We're good with the message. But back off just a little, man. I'm like, come on.
Make it kind of special is what you're saying.
Yeah, make just a touch.
Well,
I mean,
and here are my like two things. So not to go kind of against maybe what Gabe said, but some of the things that I didn't like about the movie were, in all honesty, some of the humor. I felt like I don't know. I felt like it was kind of too contrived, or maybe just too forced. Too like, for instance, and I made notes. I was trying to make notes while not disrupting my fellow moviegoers. But like when Yoda, when the Jedi, when the tree is burning and whatnot, and Luke is like, you know, this big deal when he's about to set fire to it, and Yoda's like, you know, those old books, the old Jedi scrolls, not a page turner. You know, like that was kind of like Yoda wouldn't really say that. And like when Kylo and Rey are talking, and like Kylo doesn't have a shirt on, she said, "Oh, would you please put a shirt on? Please put a cloak on, something." You know, these kind of like campy jokes that I was like, you know, I don't know. I didn't feel like they were true to what the humor, which is much more subtle in some of the other films, was. So that kind of took a little bit of the kind of credibility away from it. I feel things like that maybe were.
I feel you on that, because a lot of people said that about the comedy, but I felt like it was really in line with Rogue One, though. I felt like Rogue One was freaking a joke every 5 minutes, whether it was from that machine, you know what I'm saying, the machine that they ran around with. Yeah. Rogue One felt funny to me. Like, I was like, oh, this is a funny movie. Like, you know, there's a lot of stuff. But I do see how you could say, like, they kind of forced it in there a bit much on some of the
Yeah.
stuff, and some of them were a little bit lob and serve kind of jokes instead of being witty
you could do
and
better
smart.
than that.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. Like I did feel like some of the humor was shoehorned in, and especially some of like the shirt thing. I was like, but the Yoda scene for me was the one thing where I was like, okay, I was not expecting Yoda to show up and be and also to be like the crazy, Yoda we see at the beginning of Empire, because then he's like, okay, now I can be myself and kind of drop
More
the
of the
pretense,
wise.
right? And it was more of like the kind of the crazy Yoda, like, I'm going to hit you on the head with my thing, and I'm going to light the tree on fire, and but you know what though? At the end of the day, Frank Oz was Yoda. And we got to see that again in a Star Wars movie. And he did drive home the point where which is one of the things I loved about this film. And I truly did that. He says, oh, young Skywalker. Like, he still looks at him as like Luke, like young Luke, not Master Skywalker. And he says, failure is the great teacher. And that is so true. Like, I believe that in my own life. Like, it's through my failures that I learn and I grow and I pick myself back up. And he was saying, like, you need to teach failure, because failure is the great teacher. And I loved that message. And so, like, at that moment, I was like, okay, the kind of the goofiness aside of the scene, with some of the kind of the little attempts at forced humor, like, he made a really good point and he helped drive narratively for Luke forward and helped Luke kind of move past where he was stuck at that moment and where he'd been stuck for a long time.
And he also said, as mentors, like those that we teach will always outgrow us.
Yes.
Which he talked about. Rey is going to, So yeah, I agree that some of the points were different home. I just wish they would have been packaged differently, I guess. I don't know.
But now I will go back on the humor thing. The very beginning of the movie where you have Poe and he's like, yeah, this is Poe calling for General Hux. You there? No, I'll wait. He's like, yeah, this is it. Can he hear me? Can he hear me? He's like, I mean, that moment, like, I was like, obviously this is just for comedy, but it was funny and it was right out of the gate, and it wasn't like,
it's because he's Han.
It was a little contrived.
You know what I'm saying? He's Han.
That's right. Because
Han.
he's supposed to be Han Solo.
He's supposed to be Han.
But
that
like,
was good.
I was expecting them to be like, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Like something, like pulling something that's too new, like not a page turner. Like just, I like that scene as well. And I thought it was funny. Sir, I think he's tooling with you, but I wouldn't be surprised if they'd have been like, can you hear me now? And then the Verizon guy walks across the street. I'm like,
Yeah.
But it was funny.
I will say the other thing on the humor, the scene where Chewbacca's going to eat the porgs, and the porgs look at him like the first look they give him, that made me chuckle. I mean, I laughed out loud at that part. I was like, okay, that's pretty darn funny. But then they went back to it, and it was like the big puppy dog eyes. I'm like, all right. It was so quick for me. I was like, ha 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 ha. Kill them all. I just turned so fast.
Yeah.
See, I thought, I was with Gabe on that. I thought that was more of a subtle, and maybe they did like, maybe they
went back to it
kicked
too
the
many
dead horse
times.
a little too long, but
Sometimes a comedy that happens, you know what I'm saying, where somebody tells a joke and then they tell it, it's funny, then they tell it again and you're like, and then they tell it again, but by the fourth time you're like, okay, like it's back to being funny again.
We're looking at you, Seth MacFarlane and Family Guy.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It goes back to the well. Okay, so the last characters, though, like, let's talk about Luke and Leia, right? Because these, for the older generation, like, these were the characters we wanted to see, right? We wanted to know what Luke has been doing. I loved Luke's story through and through in this movie, like, except for one big, massive hole in the writing, which I'm going to get to here in just a second. I really liked it. I could have done without the whole drinking the green milk visual, just to be perfectly honest. That
running down his beard.
Yeah, that was a little, I'm like, what? Why is he milking this thing? Why do I have to watch this?
They're trying to show how crazy he had become.
Even Ray turns away. She's like,
freaking,
like, that's a little
castaway,
disgusting.
man. He's a castaway.
Now, but the one thing, and this was the thing that conflicted me the most. Luke sees conflict in Darth Vader. He sees light in Darth Vader, probably the biggest embodiment of evil in the Star Wars universe. And he says, I need to try to change him. There's conflict. I sense it, right? This is established. Like, he does that. But then later we get these flashbacks that like Luke sees that his nephew is going over and been seduced to the dark side, so he considers murdering him in his sleep. That to me was the point where I was like, wait, what? Like that, like from a writing standpoint, I was like, I get that you need, as a writer, you need to write some sort of conflict. Something has to happen between Luke and Rey, Luke and Ben, right? Luke and Ben, that's going to set him off to be Kylo, and it's going to take Luke into like, I'm going to do the Obi-Wan Kenobi thing and become a hermit. I get that you have to write something. There has to be some kind of conflict. But wanting to murder him in his sleep seems so against Luke's character because of what he's previously done that it's like, he looked for the good in the most and biggest embodiment of evil. But when it comes to his nephew, I'm just going to slice him down in the middle of the night. That was hard for me. That was a sticking point for me personally. I don't know about you guys, but that was rough.
It's interesting because the way they told the story, the way that, we all know there's the three sides to every story, your side, my side, and the truth, right? And so we got to see all three of those. We got to see Luke's side where he's like, I just went in there and he went crazy. And then we have Kylo's side where he was like, I rolled over and he was about to kill me. And he had his lightsaber raised and he was coming down with it. I had to block it with my lightsaber. Right. And then the truth comes out where it's like, he was really contemplating, and yes, he pulled the lightsaber out, and yes, he lit it, but he wasn't really going to strike him. You know what I'm saying? And you saw it in his face that like, he wasn't going to do it. And a lightsaber freaking comes on like, so anybody would have woke
I'm
up,
awake.
right?
Yeah,
exactly. It's like, go in with the lightsaber on already, right? And so, so I feel like I would have been conflicted if Kylo's story was true. The fact that Luke was so ashamed that he lied about it showed me that like, yeah, you know what? I thought about it because of what happened with my dad. And I didn't want that same kind of evil running around, especially on my watch. And I wish somebody would have killed my dad. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just wonder if that kind of thought process goes through. Like, the whole question of if you had a time machine, would you go back and kill Hitler as a baby? Right. And so, and so you have this like, this opportunity. Okay, I've seen this before in my father. I've seen the death and destruction that he brought. Man, could I not have that happen? But then not be able to bring himself to do it. There was something about when the truth came out. I was like, okay, he wouldn't have done it, but he did happen to wake him up, and Kylo thought he was going to do it, and they had a falling out. And so, I see what you're saying. Like, that doesn't feel very Luke Skywalker, but then at the same time, like, does it feel Luke Skywalker knowing what he's been through? Like, you know what I'm saying? He's got a missing hand to show for it. You know what I mean?
That's what I was going to say.
That is true. Yeah. You know what, like, Gabe, like, you just right there, just with what you said, you brought me back a little bit on this because I've been like, really like, this is the thing. Yeah. But you know what? You are right. Like, maybe he saw what everyone in the universe went through due to his father. And yes, he turned his father at the very, very end, but maybe he wants to prevent that from happening again because like he says early in the movie, his hubris, he thought he could do a better job. He could do better than those that have gone before him, which is what Ben Kenobi says basically about Anakin, who becomes Vader, right? Like, I thought I could train him. I thought I could, do this. And it's like, I was wrong. Yeah. I mean, you put a good spin on it. You put a good frame of reference that I maybe hadn't looked at, just more of my like, and
I feel that. I totally get that. You know what I'm saying? It makes total sense. Steve, what do you think?
I would say that I think I would agree with Gabe that I'm glad that was the truth, but I guess my larger conflict, I guess, throughout the entire film was just that, if Luke Skywalker followed the same path as Ben Kenobi, I felt like he was much more remiss to jump back into the fray and to be the hero that I so wanted him to be. Whereas Ben was like, there's sand people about. Let's go today, And then he just gets in and goes with Luke, And he's like, I will help you, I felt like throughout the whole movie, I wanted so bad for Luke to like get off his laurels and
to be Luke.
To be Luke, right? And this is not, this is definitely not coming from a real critic of the film, but really just from a kid who grew up with Luke being the hero, being like the hero, and so my inner child just wanted him to be that, and I would even say that I came away, and this is kind of going back to the point of my overall take of the movie. The reason that I came away disappointed was that I felt like everything that they worked on, everything from A New Hope to Empire Strikes Back, even through Rogue One, Force Awakens, that everything like didn't matter that much, because even now, they have like this even more of a ragtag bunch of
right.
They can't even fill up the Millennium Falcon. No one in the outer rim of the galaxy even responds to Princess Leia. I'm like, I've even lost hope. It's like, and so he sacrifices himself at the end to just buy him more time. Like, no, man, I wanted real Luke to be there. I wanted him to slice up all the AT-ATs and jump from this, that, and the other, and like Yoda did with Count Dooku, jumping all over the place and slicing and dicing. And I just,
but here is something.
And
cool.
Again, this is just from my inner child. I just wanted more.
Here is something cool. Like early on, right? Rey goes and she hands Luke the lightsaber, and he like throws it over his shoulder. And is like, whatever, right? And he says, "What do you want me to do? Go out there with a laser sword and stand in front of the entire First Order?" And then when it comes to that moment, that's exactly what Luke does. Like he goes, and of course now this is all the Force projection, right? But he goes and he stands down like all these AT-ATs, and Kylo Ren's there, and like they're shooting all the lasers at him, right? And then he's like, brushes it off, and it's the whole thing. Like that's exactly what he says. Like, what do you want me to do? I'm not going to do that. And then of course, in a way, he does do that. He stands them all down, and like that moment for me was like, okay, yes. But I did notice that there was something wrong. I was like, he's not using the right lightsaber because his lightsaber had just been destroyed. He's not making any footprints in the sand. And his beard is like, looks like it was when he was younger, when he, almost killed Ben Solo, but he didn't. But that moment, like, there's that moment where he comes in and he sees Leia, and Leia notices him. And he goes over and talks to her, and 3PO's like, "Master Luke," and he turns and just kind of winks at him. Like, there was some of those moments that I was just like, this feels satisfying. Not so much on the, like, this is a big moment, but it was like these little, like, subtle moments of like, Luke, in a way, is back with his sister, and with 3PO, and with the rebellion, kind of where we want him to be, where we feel comfortable with him being, right?
Can I say that that was my
moments.
favorite? That was my favorite line in the whole movie, is when Luke sees Leia and she goes, I know, you're going to say I changed my hair. Because that's what Han had said to her in 7. And I was like, oh, I love that line. Like, something about that was so sweet, like, and so real. And like, but the only thing I didn't love about it was it didn't sound like I haven't seen you in 30 years.
Right.
It sounds like I just saw you last Thanksgiving and I changed my hair since last Thanksgiving.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
there was a little bit of that.
Gives him the dice, or he gives her the dice.
I would say the one payoff for me from that whole ending, like the third act of the movie, was earlier in the movie, Rey says, we basically, they're having this conversation, she and Luke, and he basically says, I'm a legend or whatever, and I never wanted to be, and Rey says, the galaxy needs a legend. Maybe that's what we need. That's what the rebellion needs, is a legend. And so even though he wasn't there, and he really, it was a force projection or whatever, that you see the last scene is that stable boy who's kind of telling the story of how Luke Skywalker stood down the entire army, and he was kind of projecting that legend.
Right.
And that legend would then, I think what I took away from that is that would promulgate hope throughout the galaxy, even just the story, right? The legend of the...
It's the spark that will light the fire that will burn down the First Order.
That's right.
Something like that.
Yes, yeah.
But almost like Braveheart and Mel Gibson when he's like, yes, and he shoots fireballs out of his head, sometimes the legend is bigger than the person, and that legend, that story gives people hope. So,
right.
I mean, that was the one takeaway that I was like,
yeah, I was just sad. My only gripe with Luke was that I was really sad that he really never left. You know what I'm saying? Like that he was so stubborn that he really stayed on the island the whole time. I hated that. I was like,
yes,
come be with your sister. Like if you're gonna show up,
up.
Yeah, if you're gonna die and go out like Obi-Wan, go out like Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan went out swinging. You know what I'm saying?
He was at the Death Star, and he was 92.
He's fighting somebody with a doggone lightsaber. Like, go out there and fight. What are you doing? Like, just floating there and just acting like you're there. Like, that's the only thing. That, like,
drinking your green milk.
He did do what Obi-Wan did, though. Obi-Wan gave them time to get away, and that's what he did for the rebellion, right? Or
and
for
then died the exact same way. Died on his own terms. You know what I'm saying? He didn't. Kenobi didn't actually take the lightsaber to the stomach.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? He disappeared before, right before he gets hit.
The moment when we see Luke still on Octo and he's there floating, he's in the Force, like the place went wild.
It went wild when I was there too. Yes.
And I was like, and I had that moment. I was like, yes. I'm like, even though this Force projection is kind of a new Force ability we're kind of seeing, at that distance.
Okay, that was my question. Is that new?
Yep, that's new. For sure.
Because everybody went crazy, but I didn't know why everybody went crazy. Like, I would have rather the new power was him able to withstand all them bullets. You know what I'm saying? Like, when he was standing there and walked through the smoke, I go to myself, I was like, oh, that's new. I don't remember them being able to, like, do a force field. But, like, I would have rather him been able to do a force field than do a force projection across the galaxy.
Right.
Except be there. But I was the same thing as Spencer. I hadn't put it together that quick because I'm not that smart. But I was like, why is his beard trimmed? Like, did he stop by the barbershop on the way to the spot? Like, he is in no hurry. Like, hey, can you cut this and color this real quick? Because I got to go see my sister. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so I was like, why does he look all... men? Yeah, I was like, why does he look all skinny and everything? That's weird. It wasn't until I left the theater that I was like, oh, he did that because that's the way Ben would have seen him last. Like, I get it. But I hated that he didn't actually ever leave and go and represent for the Skywalkers.
Maybe it was the fact that he couldn't raise the X-wing from the water. Maybe it just sat too long. Salt corrodes.
He can force project himself across the galaxy, but he can't raise the X-wing anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Question: what was the thing that he saw in the sun?
I don't think that he actually saw anything in the sun.
It was just the setting of the sun, I think.
But it was like a speck in the sun, right?
Yeah, I know some people have talked about that, and they've said it looked like a ship maybe was coming down because that's what the First Order said they do. They're going to find Luke Skywalker, they're going to send a ship, and they're going to kill him, right? But I don't know that was actually meant to be anything. But what I thought about that scene when I watched it was
that was really weird. If it's not anything, though. It
was probably just one of those birds that they couldn't CGI out.
Yeah, it's a puffin, yeah. But what I liked about that one moment, though, is like, like he gives it all, right? He gives everything he can to make this happen, and he kind of like collapses. And then as he kind of like climbing back up the rock to kind of get back up there, he looks and he sees two suns. It's the double sun, which is the exact same suns that he looked at as a boy on Tatooine, looking up and saying like, I want to go out into the universe. I want to become a fighter pilot like my father. I want to serve, I want to be able to do all this stuff. And at the last moment, like it plays kind of that Tatooine theme. You hear the little bit of that Tatooine kind of like floating on the wind as he's looking at the dual suns. And it's like, okay, now I've done what I needed to do to buy the Resistance, time. I'm at peace. I'm now going to become one of the Force and let go of everything and pass away like Obi-Wan did. I actually thought it was a really touching, like a really fitting scene for Luke to go out on. I wish I would have had more of it. Like that was one of my complaints. I felt like this movie had so much story they were trying to pack in that like I wish that there was moments that they would have focused more like on the Luke and Leia dynamic right there at the end. I would have loved more time with that. I would have loved more time with Luke after he's like just done this great big thing, just a few more seconds even. I thought it was beautiful. Like that was actually one of the moments in the movie I was like, okay.
You know what's interesting? I'm with you. I just feel like I didn't feel like Luke's work was done. And so
I was like,
back. Well, I would imagine he's going to come back as a Force ghost, like all of them do. And I mean, the only thing exciting about that now is that we've seen Yoda as a Force ghost conjure lightning and hit Luke, which before Force Ghost just stood there. Like you really see him like be able to interact with anybody. You know what I'm saying? So now that they can interact, I mean, I guess that's fine. But like, I just didn't feel like to become a Force ghost. Like, do you need to be a Force ghost? You know what I'm saying? You still got a ship right there on the island. Maybe you used all your fuel for your last light jump. I don't know if it was empty on gas or whatever, but like, I was just like, is your job done? You know what I'm saying?
I think I'm with you. Like,
he only gave Rey 3 lessons.
But I think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be like. I mean, let's make the comparison to Ben Kenobi, right?
Yeah.
Obi-Wan Kenobi really didn't teach Luke all that much. I mean, he gave him a little bit at the when they're in the Millennium Falcon. He's talking to him. He's kind of having him work with the little probe droid. Putting the blaster down. He kind of talked to him about exploring his feelings, explaining what the Force is, and then that's pretty much it. But now we do get him as a Force ghost, trying to like help guide him to Yoda and still kind of interacting with him some. And so I think we're going to see the parallels of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Luke Skywalker now, where I think we're going to see him come back and like try to help nudge Rey in the direction more that she needs to go in.
And I totally see that.
But you want more, and I'm with you.
Well, I just don't want him to just come back and be Jiminy Cricket. You know what I'm saying? Like, exactly. I don't want them to turn Luke Skywalker into a conscience on her shoulder, like, don't quite do that, do this. And you're like, oh, man, he comes back as like, I don't want him to come back as a talking cricket. So that was my only thing. I'm like, your sister's still alive. Like, and to me, now, just take this as a grain of salt. Don't anybody get offended. But to me, it just felt like suicide a little bit. Like, all right, I'm done, and I can't even do this anymore. I'm out. And you're like, whoa. You're like, your sister's still alive. Like, people are still around. It's not like everybody's gone and you're the last of the Mohicans.
You.
Right.
She needs you still. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? In the story, Leia is still alive. Obviously, she's dead in real life. But, she's still alive in the story. And so why would you leave your sister in that way? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Ben went out in a fight. Yeah. Ben didn't go out sitting at home like, oh, man, I think I've done it. All right, I'm out. You know what I'm saying?
I just can't. I'm done.
Yeah, I just can't anymore with all this.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. Let's talk about Leia, because we have this, right? Luke seemingly leaves Leia, and I think she knew that he wasn't there on the planet, on Crate. I think she knew because...
She's
we
Force
see
sensitive
Leia in this movie,
and using the Force nowadays.
He kissed her forehead, and maybe she felt the younger beard.
She's definitely Force sensitive, and now apparently she can withstand sub-zero temperatures of outer space and Mary Poppins fly back onto the bridge.
That was weird.
Yeah, that was a rough part. Here's my thing though, like I wish, and this is gonna sound bad, and obviously Carrie Fisher's no longer with us, and we're all sad about that, because we love her. But I wish that they would have found a way to say, okay, she doesn't wake back up from that experience, and let's let that death be what it was, because it felt like it was almost like everyone in the theater knew she was going to die at that moment, because we knew that Carrie Fisher really had died, and we knew that they weren't going to CGI her into episode 9, and that they said all her filming had been done. If they would have taken that moment and just said like, she didn't make it, she passed, and then they would have kind of gone on. They still could have done the thing with Holdo and with Admiral Holdo and with Poe. They could have done all that and just not had Leia in it.
Well, she didn't do anything else for the rest of the movie.
Right.
Yeah, I think that would have been more powerful and more credible.
I think so.
It was almost like, what was that movie with Sandra Bullock when, she has that dream and then she's out in outer space and the guy...
Oh, Contact. Gravity? No, not Contact. Gravity. Yeah. Gravity.
Yeah, Gravity. And then somebody it's like a dream. I don't know. I agree. I think that scene with Kylo Ren was a really powerful scene for his story development, when he was about to pull the trigger and then he doesn't, he lets up, and then somebody, then his supporting TIE fighters shoot and just, kill Leia basically. So
dude, that was crazy.
I agree.
My knee-jerk reaction was anger. I was like, no, they did not kill Leia in the first 10 minutes. But at the same time, I was like, that is some cojones to kill Leia in the first 10 minutes. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Which I think would have been cool.
And it would have made perfect sense. I think they missed the mark on that. I think they should have killed her. I think also they should have killed Finn. I think they should have let him sacrifice himself, because blasting a hole in the thing didn't do anything either.
Right.
You know what
exactly.
I'm saying? Like, they were going to have to find a different way out anyway. So you blast a hole in the thing or not, they still have to leave through the back door. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so it just bugged me a little bit. I was like, oh, let Finn go out like a freaking champ. You know what I'm saying? But they didn't kill him, and he's going to be in the next movie.
That kiss with Rose was really weird too.
Of course,
really
it was weird. You save people you love, or whatever the freak she said. I was like, y'all fell in love in like a day? Like, what the heck? You heard some stories about this dude. You got to run around with him, and now you love him? I was like, oh, man. When do you have time to fall in love?
That's what we call a gold digger, a fame seeker.
And going back to Spencer's point earlier, this is a 2 hours and 35-minute movie, and yet I felt like it was really like pushed along and forced, where I agree that I thought a lot of the storylines were just left undone or left not done well enough. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
They had lots of time.
I'm with you. Like, so here's the thing, like, and obviously, like, we've talked about a lot of the things we've liked about the movie so far, and like we've obviously picked apart a lot of things we didn't like about the movie. But like I do like the movie, but like I'm just being critical because we're fans and that's what we're gonna do. But here's the interesting thing, and to kind of pull away from the movie a little bit. Critics loved this movie. Like, it's currently 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. The critics loved this movie. It's 91% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. The fans, though, on Rotten Tomatoes, give it a 51% rating.
Whoa!
It is a huge disparity. Now, usually for like big blockbuster movies, big kind of tentpole franchise movies, usually the critics are down and the audiences are higher, but they're usually within like 15 points. And this is a huge disparity between the two.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of this is that a lot of people probably came out of the movie theater after seeing it the first time, like I did, feeling conflicted. There was things that they didn't like about it. There was things they liked about it, but not loved. And so with so many people being, fans of Star Wars and, loving the whole franchise, I think a lot of people have gone on the internet and obviously on Rotten Tomatoes and like just shredded it apart.
Yes.
I do not think it's a 51% movie. I mean, that's putting it like on the same level as like,
1, 2, and 3.
Right, exactly. The prequels. Right. And I mean, come on. It's nowhere near that bad. It's not Empire Strikes Back, but
when did we get promised amazing movies? We hope they're amazing, but Star Wars, let's just take 4, 5, and 6. When you go back and hear people talk about the Ewoks, they hated that junk. And they hated that they turned Star Wars back into a kid's movie, and that the Ewoks are taking out freaking ATSTs with logs and all kind of Rube Goldberg contraptions. And so, they didn't like that. And so we have been given, forgive me if I offend anybody again, we've been given, to what people say at the time, 2 amazing Star Wars movies, A New Hope and Return of the Jedi, or whatever it was. Or Empire. I forget which one. Yeah. Empire. And so that's the 2. And then we were given what people were saying is not good with the Ewoks and all that stuff. Right. And then we're given 1, 2, and 3, which people don't even like to talk about. Then we're given 7, which people are saying is a rehash of 4.
But everyone loved.
I loved it. But
I
liked it too.
I think we got really spoiled because we just think that it's going to be, but Star Wars doesn't promise to be amazing. It promises to be Star Wars. Right. And I feel like 8 is very Star Wars. You know what I'm saying?
I'm going to admit I have Star Wars entitlement.
Well said.
Like that's like, you're right, Gabe. It's Star Wars entitlement. I'm a fanboy and I'm like, I demand, I want, I crave for excellent movies. And this, for me, just for me, this was not that. It was not an excellent movie. It was a really good movie. Like, there was a lot of things I really did like about it, and some parts I really loved about it. But it's not gonna. I'm not gonna say it's excellent. However, people on the internet need to like settle down because
about everything. Number one,
Oh, about everything.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing people like, oh, if you hated this movie, you probably love the prequels. It's like,
Come on,
blah,
man.
blah, blah. I hated the prequels, but I loved this. I was like, okay, let's not make this Star Wars on Star Wars crime here. I mean,
we didn't have no midichlorians.
Relax.
We didn't have any Jar Jar Binks. You know what I'm saying? There's so many things in the first 1, 2, and 3 that you're like where it just felt like a money grab. You know what I'm saying? The acting is. I don't personally like homeboy that played Anakin in 2 and 3. I don't like him in any movie that he's done. Any movie.
Right.
Horrible.
And so but look at 4, 5, and 6. Mark Hamill was not a good actor in 4, 5, and 6. Like he's not that great. I mean, Han is the best actor in 4, 5, and 6. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But Mark Hamill was by far the best actor in this movie, Last Jedi. I thought he did an excellent job. Oh,
he has grown as an actor over the years in incredible ways.
I really like Ray.
Ray's good.
Yeah,
in all of it.
Ray. I think she did a great job.
Daisy Ridley's good.
Yeah,
so here's the thing,
great.
with all the negativity, like Rian Johnson, the director, actually addressed some of it on Twitter. He went on.
I couldn't believe it.
Someone wrote him a comment saying, like, how do you feel about, doing something so polarizing, da, 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 da. And he basically responded and said, like, I know this isn't going to, be for everyone. I didn't try to go and, like, rewrite the thing. And I saw that and I was like, I get what he's saying. Like, he's trying to address stuff saying, like, I'm not trying to rewrite your childhood. I'm not trying to, change your life. I'm just trying to provide a way to tell a story that I intended to tell and give us room to grow going forward. And like, that's a great response. However, it's kind of sad that like he actually had to make that statement in the first place. And he addressed freaking internet people and,
don't
people
feed
that
the
are like,
trolls.
Bagging your stuff. Don't feed the trolls. Gabe's got it.
Yeah. Yep.
But you know what? For all it's said and done, like the big changes to the Force, these new Force powers that some of it I was like, okay, I could see. Others I was like, all right, this seems a little wacky. Some of the storytelling, the plot holes. Overall, I liked the movie. I really did. It's just there was some things that for me just didn't sit well. I wanted to love it. I just can't get there. But that doesn't mean I don't like it. And if you love it, like, that's great. I'm happy. Like, I'm happy for everyone that says they loved it. Like, I don't have any ill will towards people that say they loved it and think, well, because I have an opinion, your opinion has to be wrong.
Yeah.
Because it's a movie. It's like movies, music, books. Like, they hit people different ways. Like, I can listen to a beautiful piece of music and get a total, like, impression one way, and someone can listen to the same music and it can hit them another way. And that's how movies are too. And I'm okay with that. Like everyone should be able to enjoy it or not enjoy it however they choose to.
Right. And that's why I was saying at the top, like, I am choosing to have childlike faith when it comes to these movies, because I know, at least watching behind the scenes stuff and what Ryan has said, like he loves Star Wars.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He wants to tell an amazing story, and he probably did the best of his ability because he knows the weight of the responsibility that he has to the fans. Nobody's going to do it right. Not one person is going to do it right. JJ tried it. I love almost everything JJ does.
Right.
But people were like, it's kind of like A New Hope. It's just a bigger Death Star. Why would he do that? But you're like, come on, man, it's JJ. JJ. And I'm so happy that JJ gets the reins back on 9. That's so exciting. Right. I couldn't believe that when I read it. I remember when they first talked about doing 7, I was like, please, Lord, let JJ Abrams do it. I don't know if he knows anything about Star Wars. But when he did Star Trek, I was like, oh, great. Now he's definitely not doing Star Wars if he did Star Trek.
I thought that too. Oh, I thought that too.
And then when he said he was doing it, I was like, yes. And so, I feel like Ryan, I always call him Rain. Ryan did the best he could with an incredible responsibility.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
huge.
I just don't know that anybody could have got it perfectly right. He doesn't get to intro new characters like JJ got to. He doesn't get to let you fall in love. He's got to further something somebody else started. You know what I'm saying? This is not the Bible. This is not God written, through a bunch of authors from the beginning to the end, and it just happens to tell the exact same story. You know what I'm saying? This is a guy that's got to take what JJ did. And I remember they asked JJ, like, hey, who's Ray's parents? You know what I'm saying? Did you at least write who they are? And he's like, no, I left it up to the next director. Like, so Ryan doesn't even get that. You know what I'm saying? Ryan's got to just figure it out. And he's like, this is your movie, Doc. This is your movie. Yes, my name's going to be in the credits, but this is your movie. You do you. You know what I'm saying? And so, I mean, what do you expect? You know what I'm saying? It's changing hands. It's changing minds. It's a hard thing to accomplish, to tell somebody else's story. And that's why people are so mad about Snoke. You know, they're like, well, how you kill Snoke? And it's like, Ryan's like, I don't like Snoke all like that. I think that he's not the bad guy in these movies. We're not going to have a CGI bad guy in these movies. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, we don't need another Emperor Palpatine. And I mean, that is true. Like,
or Thanos.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, we're getting that May 4th, buddy. You know what? Here's the thing. Like, and this is my only worry, right? Because as much as like some of these things, like the unanswered questions, like how did Maz get Luke's lightsaber? How did, who erased parents? Who is Snoke? All this stuff.
Who was she fighting?
For good, right? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I can't talk right now. I got to fight off this, I don't know, trade rebellion or whatever it was.
Yeah, whatever it was.
But for all those unanswered questions, Rian Johnson decided to either not answer them intentionally or just like move past them with the whole, like, who your parents are. They're junk traders. They left you they sold you for booze money.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like,
Right.
okay, that didn't feel very satisfying. After a few years of wanting to know this answer, but he is.
What's funny? Just real quick, that was
choice.
extremely satisfying for me.
Really?
I loved. If that's true, we don't know. I don't.
If that's true,
you know, because there's the whole thing of like Snoke was feeding them both these stories, and so we don't know if Snoke just kind of fed him that. But him saying, who your parents are. They were nobodies. You don't even belong here. I loved it because it kind of
story.
Yeah, it kind of broke down it reinforced, I felt, what Luke was telling her. Like, you don't have to be special to be a part of this thing. You don't have to be a Skywalker to be sensitive. She has studied the Bible on the rebellion. It showed it in Force Awakens when she's wearing the helmet and she's just smiling, just thinking about being a pilot in one of those, And so, to me, like, if you're going to have a girl that is going to be in touch with the Force, is going to be this girl who's been infatuated with it since she was a child. And the fact that her parents maybe weren't anybody, I love that, because it was like, it showed the power and the resolve even more within her, that she was about what was right. And she looked at Kylo Ren and was like, no. You will not be like this. You know what I'm saying? You know better. I will not join you. You kidding me? You're crazy. I've never joined you. You know what I'm saying? So I liked that he was like, trying to almost talk down to her, like, I'm special. You're not special. And she was like, oh no, I'm special. Because, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. I liked that part.
Well, my only worry now is like Rian Johnson's established, his answers to things or moved on, but now we're going to have J.J. Abrams come in and do 9. Is J.J. going to retcon stuff and try to be like, well, Kylo was lying here. Her parents actually do
Snoke's
matter. Snoke actually is alive. It was the Darth Maul thing, but we put it back together. I really, really hope JJ doesn't do that. I hope he just moves forward. Because if we do that, then it would almost be like it invalidates this movie, or invalidates a lot of the writing in this movie and Rian Johnson's vision, and that. I think that would be more detrimental to the Star Wars brand than anything. Yes, exactly. And Rian Johnson's going to get 3 movies, a trilogy of his own that he's going to get to do outside of the Skywalker, solo family. It's going to be kind of in this world. Like, do that. Make that your own thing. I hope JJ doesn't try to retcon, because that, for me, that just would be bad.
Oh, it'd be such a waste of time. Like, this movie shouldn't even existed if you're going to do that. We're just kidding. He's not dead. We're just kidding. She is a Skywalker. We're just kidding. Luke's like, I would have that would be terrible.
Yeah. We got to move. We have to move forward with the story. Let's progress from this point, right? We have to do that.
Yes.
If we don't, who's going to plop down $12 to see, except me? I'm going to go see it for free with my movie pass. So I'm not going to plop down that $12. But, so let's do this. Last impressions. Like, you've talked about it. Everyone's talking about this movie. You've seen the movie. what are your feelings overall? Would you recommend someone still go see this in the theater if they haven't seen it? Gabe.
Oh, heck yeah. Because I have to believe that not everybody is as nerdy as me. And so some people are going to be able to take it just at entertainment value. They're not going to have to know anything or remember anything from 4, 5, and 6, or even have went and seen 1, 2, and 3. Maybe they just jumped in at Force Awakens and that's their first introduction to Star Wars. I think if you're just jumping in there, then this movie is not that bad. You're not going to be able to rip it as much apart as when you look at it as just 7 and 8. I think that, like Steve was saying earlier, soundtrack, awesome. Acting, really good. Visuals, amazing. Especially the salt planet. You're like, oh my gosh, with the red underneath and the contrast and the colors. The way they, I don't love that, Kylo Ren and Rey were able to talk in the way they were. It felt a little convenient, a way to tell a story. But if you're new to this thing and don't know that you're not supposed to be able to force project yourself or have force time, with your iPhone 75, whatever they had that they were using,
right?
Then it's okay. And I think that, at the end of the day, it's still fan service and you're still getting some comedy in there. It's not too serious. It's lacking a love story, which, you kind of, they kind of had that in 4, 5, and 6 with Han and Leia. And so you kind of got the butterflies from that. They kind of tried to shoehorn it in there at the very end. It felt really forced. But, I think at the end of the day, if you just take it as a movie, because it's Star Wars, that's why we're critical. We're not sitting here, talking about Passengers. You know what I'm saying? Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence, and then though, why would they? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's Star Wars. It's a pop culture juggernaut. So I would say, just even from that standpoint, go see Star Wars because you need to have seen Star Wars. But I would tell somebody go see it. I loved the movie. I'm choosing to love it. Yes, you've heard me rip different things apart, but at the end of the day, it's what I've always wanted. I wanted them to make Star Wars when CGI doesn't look crazy and you're not trying to throw CGI in an old movie or trying to all of a sudden have a conversation with Jabba the Hutt and him be shorter than Han, even though he looks huge earlier in the movie. And so
he ate a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Or Han moving his head all weird so it didn't look like he shot first. I'm definitely a Han shot first guy. I have a mug that says Han shot first. It's his personality to shoot first. Just like when Leia says, I love you, and he says, yeah, I know. You know what I'm saying? That's who he is. He was a pimp. He was a thief. And so, it's who he's supposed to be. So anyway, all that to say, I loved it. Get wrapped up in it. And if you don't dig too deep, I think you can really enjoy it.
Steve, what about you?
Yeah, my takeaway is while I have my own nostalgia, holding my dead grippy hands on the Star Wars or on the Skywalker saga, it definitely when I take 2 steps back, I love Star Wars too. I grew up on Star Wars, but my Star Wars is coming to a close and there's another story to be told. And there are many more stories to be told, right? And so who am I to stand in the way of progress? And I am, when all is said and done, I am excited to see the next chapter of this story and to see Rey and others that, are the Star Wars of this generation. It's, and that's an exciting thing, that this story that was really, nobody knew that this was going to be what it has become. But that story can continue to be told, that my kids can play with Star Wars toys. That's exciting to me. So, while I did have, some heartbreaking moments, in this film, I think that it is definitely one that should be seen, if for nothing else, continuity of story. but no, I think it was a good story to be told. I think there's some great, good versus evil in this story and, some powerful choices that were made. And so, yeah, I would say thumbs up to go see it, and may Star Wars live on forever.
I would definitely recommend you go see this in the theater because it's Star Wars. You don't pass on an opportunity to see Star Wars in the theater. I don't care if you like it, love it, or hate it. It is a big event. You should go take the opportunity. I felt that this movie... I felt this movie had some issues. We kind of talked about that, but overall, on its own, it's still a good movie. Like, it would be a really fantastic movie if it wasn't for all the other Star Wars that we've, known and loved for years. I would definitely wish that a few things would have been different. But at the end of the day, this was Rian Johnson's vision. It's what he wanted to do. It was the story he wanted to tell, and he told it. And it's got to take a big set of huevos to do that in an established storyline, right? And to say, I'm going to do things that may shake up the status quo, but will give us the ability to be creative down the road. And that's never going to sit right with everyone. But in the end, I think he's probably going to be proven right. This movie is making tons of money, and I think it will continue to make, money. And let's be honest, I mean, who's not going to go see the next Star Wars movie because they didn't like this one or didn't love this one? You're going to go see it, right? You're going to take that opportunity to see what's going to happen.
And I want to say, too, one of the things we got to really remember is whether we like the Marvel or DC movies, that story is written already, and these directors get to take this storyline and put their thing on it. Now in Star Wars, we're making it up as we go, folks. So like, you got to allow somebody to hit a bump in the road every now and then. Comics get like 25 issues to get a story right, or to shape something into what you want it to be. Ryan got one shot, one script to bring this thing that everybody loves, or this, huge phenomenon, and pour it into 2.5 hours and try to make something entertaining. And that's tough. That's tough to do. You know what I'm saying? It's like, when somebody does their second, we've seen it with The Matrix. I love The Matrix. The second and third Matrix are garbage to me.
Right.
Compared to the first one. The first one was like miraculous, like everything about it. I loved everything about it. Game changer.
Absolutely.
It changed pop culture. We saw bullet time and everything after that. Shrek put bullet time in it.
We even saw Luke in this movie at the end when he
it slides under
the back bend.
That was from Matrix.
Yeah, that's the Matrix. And then 2 and 3 are terrible. This is not Matrix 2. You know what I'm saying? It's not like they did that on this. You know what I mean?
Yep. So here's the thing, Super Friends, listeners, I want to know what you think, because obviously, everyone's talked about it. So my question of the week is going to be specifically, did you like this movie and for what reason, or did you not like this movie and for what reason? And you can let us know at all the usual places: Facebook.com/ForwardOfNerd, Twitter @ForwardOfNerd. You can get us at the long form, which is forwardofnerd@gmail.com, or our phone number, 801-477-7687. And Gabe, you're going to have to write us a jingle for that, because we haven't come up with a good one yet.
Yeah.
But let us know, did you like it? Did you love it? Did you not like it? Did you hate it? And give us a specific reason as to why. There are no wrong answers, but we want to hear what you guys have to say. Gabe, I'm so glad you got to come and be with us tonight.
Thanks for inviting me.
And
Absolutely.
This is one of these things where I know we could talk about this for a lot longer, and we've talked a lot longer than we normally talk by a mile. But it's been a good conversation. I'm glad you're here. Gabe, tell all of our listeners where they can find you each and every week, and where you're going to be on tour this year.
Oh man. You can find me doing the same kind of jabbering over on the Married to the Games podcast. We are a video game podcast. We're all husbands. 2 of us are dads. Our tagline is kids, wives, and 9 to 5s, but we are still married to the games. Check us out at marriedtothegames.com. You can see us on Twitter at MTTGcast. That's where we're the most active. And come hang out with us. We got episodes dropping every Friday. We've got another one coming out this Friday. It will be episode 277.
Woo!
We have done 277 weeks in a row. We turned 5 at the end of last year. And so, man, we've been loving it. It's been great. Come and hang out with us. And, I'll be on tour with Toby Mac on the Hits Deep Tour, headed out west this winter, starting at the end of January through April. So check out TobyMac.com, see if we're coming close.
And I'm going to say this, if you get a chance, go see Gabe in concert. Like, it is a great show. I mean, Toby's great too. Don't get me wrong, but you gotta check out Gabe, man. Like, find where he's at, go see it. It's a great show. You will not be sad you did.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
It's a good time.
I'm just saying.
There you go.
All right, Steve, you want to kick us on out of here?
Well, with a runtime for this podcast almost equal to The Last Jedi itself, I will say this. May the Force be with you, always.